Welcome to Lorehammer, Episode 21, Forces of the Astartes.
Hello, and welcome back to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Pass.
Okay.
This is Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan, for that. Joining us today, why don't you introduce yourself?
The immortal Christian who cannot be killed.
A more appropriate term would be Phoenix, because you just rise every time we do kill you. Or what is it? Is it a roach that you can never kill, like a cockroach? Yeah, Christian's a cockroach is what he is.
You know what he is?
What?
Sneaky Mexican.
He's just, how did he get in this room?
Exactly. You build walls.
There was a
they
wall,
Still find
he
a way
climbed
in.
it.
A filthy, illegal immigrant.
Yeah. That's what
Illegal
he is.
alien.
You're stealing my job. That's what's going on right now.
It's a shitty job, though. We don't want that job anyway.
No,
so
nobody does. But
You're undercutting me working for $3.25 an hour.
Well, good thing I'm doing the podcast.
And that's
for free.
$3.25 pesos, not dollars.
that's like 15 cents.
I work hard for my money.
Well, welcome to episode 21. This is Forces of the Astartes. A little bit of an apology about last release. Had some technical errors, Christian taking the hard drive swimming. All things considered, he has been thoroughly punished.
He's trying to sneak it over the border. That's why I got
It
all
will
wet.
not. He will not be entertained, Christian. We will not even consider putting it in the hands of those south of the wall.
The ice wall.
That
The
wall is
Canadian
to
ice
protect
wall.
us.
Also, apologies if you hear banging because I'm having construction done in my basement. So I don't know if the mics will pick it up, but
We'll see.
we'll see.
All right.
I'm gonna do some slight banging, and when you guys can hear the banging, just send me an email, and I'll know when to
When to stop.
stop.
I don't think you understand that this isn't live.
What?
Oh. But people text me all the time. So we're going to pick up where we left off on our last episode, where we had just finished describing the creation process of a space marine and really what makes them go from a regular human into transhuman epic superhero bastion of hope and destruction. And
Hand check. Hand check.
I'm not lifting my hands. I am comfortable where they are.
What else is getting turned on?
They will be his warriors.
Emperor's finest.
But yeah, so today we're just gonna continue on our Space Marine journey, just to give you a more greater, gooder, better understanding of what these angels of death are comprised of. So before we get started, though, I do have a little funny for you guys.
A little funny.
Yeah, it's a little funny. Except, hey, Mark, 40K is not funny, okay? Stop laughing.
It's not.
It's not.
It's a serious place.
So here's the joke. Even if you know the punchline, you better not say it out loud. You're supposed to just say what, okay, Mark?
Okay.
All right. How do you make a small fortune playing Warhammer?
What?
I guess you're supposed to say how. So let me do that again.
40K is funny.
How do you make a small fortune playing Warhammer?
How?
You start with a large one.
What?
I've heard that
spend your
joke
money on it.
in other contexts.
Yeah, of course. You lose your money in Warhammer, Mark. That's what it.
See, what's tripping me up is spending
Yeah.
money on Warhammer, because, like, I just put it on the credit card.
Yeah.
So
It's infinite.
I'm not
You
actually...
know, at some. You know what?
spending
Yeah,
money.
you're right.
I
Good call.
just going over my head. Sorry. Just different take on finances, I guess.
You guys should get yourselves these magic credit cards.
Yeah, they're quite good.
Infinite money.
I call it the central bank.
And then when you reach your limit, you cut it up and you go get another one. It's perfect.
And then you apply under a different name and another set of social insurance, right?
Preferably Eric's.
Sorry, what?
I've been using all the Lorehammer Facebook people that message me their identities.
Hey guys, welcome to Lorehammer. Just gonna name your name, address, date of birth, social insurance number, your mother's maiden name, your employer,
First pet.
first pet.
And it should be good.
All right. Well, I guess without further ado, let's step right in to our episode of Forces of the Astartes. So before we really fit into like talk about their chapter organization within the Imperium, we're going to talk about what role they fit there. And this is a really loose gray area.
Yeah, like, because on paper, it's written down as a fact. Like, we'll get into it. But then when you actually get into, like, how it actually works,
it plays out,
it is not
little
like,
different.
Exactly. Like, what's written and what actually happens are different.
So, the Space Marines are actually an arm, the military arm of the Imperium, like one of them, other than the Imperial Navy. But while the Imperial Navy is directly under the High Lords of Terra, the Space Marines actually don't have any representation on the High Lords of Terra. So they don't fall under the Inquisition, and they don't fall under the High Lords, and yet
they don't fall under like Imperial Guard.
No, nothing. Like literally, like if you look at the organization, it's a dotted line that connects the Space Marines.
Like 4 pages over.
Yeah, it's a really odd place, and because the real question for me is, who do they answer to? Who is responsible for the Space Marines?
They answer to the Emperor.
And the reality is they really only answer to each other and the Inquisition when something bad happens. Like, for the most part, a Space Marine chapter is responsible for determining where it's going to deploy its forces.
Yeah. And even, like, some chapters are even, like, immune. It's not really the right word, but, like, above the Inquisition. Like there's a couple chapters that the Inquisition has tried to like census or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Census.
like that's not the right word,
No.
is it?
Censure. Yeah.
Censure. Okay.
They tried to count them.
How many Space Marines are there? We're not telling you.
Stop moving around.
Well, that is an example though. Like the Black Templar, they're above that chapter limit, and the Inquisition is against it, and they are like.
What are they going to do?
But it's one of those things where...
Yeah. So the Space Marines are really an independent, self-governing body within the Imperium.
And yet they still have to answer for some things. There was a chapter that was wiped out by the Inquisition, and its name is escaping me.
Oh, there's been a bunch.
Yeah.
Or
but
wiped out or deemed hereticus
right,
or
but
deemed
that's
renegade.
It's odd, right? Like that they don't necessarily answer to it, but they are kind of directly responsible. The Inquisition would be directly responsible for your fate when it comes to being declared hereticus or not.
Yeah.
So
the other thing too is that the Space Marines aren't a unified body as a whole either.
Yeah, like each chapter is different.
Is in charge of itself.
Yeah.
And answers to itself.
And even might not even work well with each other, like outside chapters.
Yeah. Two loyal chapters might be like
another
super
thing.
antagonistic.
Another thing to understand is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't like Space Marine chapters don't even deploy as a whole very regularly, and it's much more common to see smaller parts of the chapter incorporated in the large army. And let's say a squad or 2 squads shows up to a planetary invasion, they aren't taking over the battle. Like the commanders there, for the most part, will be commanding where they go or what they do, or the Space Marine gets to determine where they best fit, but they don't command ground forces. Right, it's only in some scenarios that I actually read.
It depends on the chapter.
It does depend on the chapter, and it depends on the scale. So
and it also depends on like who's already on the planet.
Yes.
Like if there's, I don't know what the highest like rank in the Imperial Guard is, but if there's a Lord Solarius or whatever, like a very well respected general of the Imperial Guard, and a Space Marine chapter comes, like they'll be like, you've proven yourself, you can run your Imperial Guard. Where other times it will be like, there's no one here of importance. The Space Marines will then take on that role of leading the Imperial Guard. But yeah, like it's one of those fine lines where it's not like if the Space Marines show up, now they're in charge, but it's also not like now the Imperial Guard are now bossing the Space Marines around. Although that can happen.
Yeah, kind of. They can, but they don't have to listen. Like
yeah. That's
the
always
Imperial
the
Guard
thing.
general can go to like a Space Marine sergeant and be like, "These are the objectives that we're working on. Here's kind of what's
Where
going on.
do you best
where do
fit?
you think you can like best help us?
Right.
Or we're requesting that you help us here and there.
Yeah.
And it's up to that Space Marine, even as low as a sergeant talking to a general, a Space Marine sergeant to like an Imperial Guard general.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, because like even a Space Marine sergeant is like most likely a couple hundred years old.
Yeah.
Like
and countless battles.
Like just on experience alone.
Yeah.
Like he knows what he's doing, and Imperial Guard regiments and commanders and stuff recognize that like they're a step above them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to equate it to like our modern perceptions of the military, but they're very autonomous. And like they obviously try to work together. Doesn't always work. You might have like, butting heads of like particularly hard-headed commanders,
different perspectives, different goals,
but
different understandings.
It's not like a direct hierarchy.
Yeah.
No.
There's some Imperial Guard regiments that even refuse to work beside Space Marine chapters. Like the Flesh Terrors have been kind of branded as like don't work beside Flesh Terrors because they're so bloodthirsty that like in the heat of the moment,
Sometimes they turn on their own allies.
sometimes bullets fly and people die.
Chain axes fly.
Yeah. So like, while they're not like the Bloodthirsters are not like a renegade chapter by any means, and they are helping the Imperium, like Imperial Guard commanders will definitely back away from that chapter entirely if they show up. Like there can really be any number of situations in 40K. Like
Yeah, it's just so broad and so vast.
It's much less of like the Imperial Guard though is very set. Right, it's very like there's a very clear hierarchy
and command
structure. You know
exactly,
even though you might even come from different planets. Like you know exactly who is in charge and where like the commands will flow from. But not as soon as you mix Space Marines in that army, it kind of all goes weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, to sum that up, unless you have any other thoughts, basically, they're like a separate branch from any other military organization, and they have the authority to respond to anyone that they want to help or not. And when they get to the battlefield, they can either choose to take over the battlefield command, they can submit, like they're completely autonomous and can do whatever they want.
Sounds like a really good time.
With the guiding hand of the Inquisition ever watching on the trigger, just waiting, just wanting.
But I mean, there's even been Space Marine chapters who haven't gone like renegade, but have challenged the Inquisition and even made the Inquisition back down.
Yeah, like the Space Wolves.
Wolves, yeah.
And like Black Templar too, kind of. No, I don't think it ever came to like the same like level of confrontation, but like the Black Templars are 6 times over the chapter limit, so it's like the Inquisition knows about it, but it's kind of one of those things where it just is.
Yeah.
Is that worth fighting for them?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, personally, yes, but
Rules are rules.
Yeah.
Rules as written and ruled as played.
Yeah, you should you should ignore the spirit of the rule always, and you should go for the literal translation of how that would work.
And if there's a typo in that rule, you're fucked.
Yeah. If there's a typo, it's just considered hereticus and you burn the book.
And the table.
And the table.
And every model on
and
it.
every model. And
your
that's how you
opponent.
that's how you turn a large fortune into a small one. You buy it all over again. All right, well, that's where Space Marines stand /float/fly in the Imperium.
Yeah.
It's not very well put.
I guess we kind of mentioned it briefly, but like Christian said, the only person they are directly responsible to is the Emperor. We kind of glossed over that. He said it real quick, and then we didn't really focus on it. But that is true.
I feel like that happens a lot.
So that is true.
About stuff you say or about the Emperor?
Stuff I say.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I would never gloss over the Emperor.
That's really all they're accountable to, like, ultimately. So.
Yeah. Well, if once that's taken care of, let's talk about chapters as they stand currently.
Yeah.
So
we'll give you a brief little preview almost. Like, Space Marine chapters have kind of 3 different organizations over the history of their creation. You have, like, the Legion Astartes, where they're just, like, huge, vast, 100,000 strong, like, legions of Marines that all fight together. And, like, even their squad numbers, they would have squads of 20 instead of squads of 10, and, like, they would have different, like, they would have, like, breacher squads that, like, carry shield. Like, they would have different specializations. It was very separate, very unique. Then, after the heresy, you got what most people would refer to, like, as, I don't know, the old Marines. I don't know what you'd call them. Just regular Space Marines, non-Primaris. Yeah. And for 10,000 years, they had their chapter organization, and they had their way of doing things. And it was, 1,000 Marines, and they had that going on for them. They had their tactical squads and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. What we're going to be talking about is the Primaris Marines.
Yeah, I mean that's where they are now. It's what's currently
That's where they're going to be going. Like,
yeah, like
eventually all the old Marines are going to die out, and we will only have a Primaris Chapter organization, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about. So, we know that like there's tactical Marines that exist in the Ultramarine Legion. We know there's Devastators. We know that there are all those old Marines, but they're dying out. They're gone. They're going to be gone in a matter of years, you know? Like, they can only last so long in the lore and only last so long, like, actually selling miniatures of these old Marines.
right.
So eventually they're going to phase it all out to Primaris Marines. So we're going to focus on only the Primaris Chapter, only the Primaris units and their roles for right now.
Yeah, at some point we will go back and talk about how
Yeah.
things used to be.
I think we need, like, what do they call it? Like a soundbite where we can just press it. We will go back and go over it eventually. But, like, as of right now, we're going to try to...
This is the most current
and
of
most
what's going
relevant.
on. Yeah.
All right, so to start it all off at the very head of a chapter, if he happens to be alive, you have your Primarch.
Yeah.
If he happens.
Yeah.
And has happened to return. So, one.
Through
There's just one.
Xenos magic. Wait, is this 40k? Seems awfully weird to...
No, it's too bright.
Bright Hammer.
Bright Hammer. If your Primarch is alive, he's your number one.
Yeah.
Barring that, for literally 99% of the other chapters out there who don't have access to their Primarch, you have your master of your chapter or chapter master.
Yeah. And we're going over like the typical things. So they do have, like, if you're a Space Wolf, they're called Great Wolves. If you're a Blood Angel, I think they call it Commander for their chapter master. Commander
Christian.
Dante?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I could be making that up. I could swear it is Commander Dante.
I think that's his title, yeah. Like, that's what I always pictured, like, written
Well,
in the code.
so Halbrecht's name is High Marshal.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, so
it's the same thing. It's the same rank, but
Yeah.
they have a different title for it.
yeah, so the most common one, like Eric said, is Chapter Master.
And he normally is followed around by an honor guard.
Yeah, and there's usually 10 of the best fighters, the most selfish.
Selfish.
Those selfish bastards.
In a way, they are, because they're all about like getting the glory, the honor of the first kill, and all that kind of being the best of the best. But yeah, he has like the honor guard, which everyone knows what an honor guard is. It's a bodyguard.
Yeah, it's his bodyguard, but they are taken from the best.
Yeah.
Because they're protecting the most important unit in their entire army. Still part of the chapter headquarters, you have your Reclusium, who is your lead chaplain for the entire chapter as a whole, and then below him are his chaplains that he's responsible for.
Yeah.
In the Ultramarine breakdown, there were 10 chaplains below the Reclusium, which would make sense if you were to say average, because that would be at least one per company.
Yeah. This is one of the few times where I'll directly reference old chapter organization, where old companies had a chaplain directly tied to each company.
Yeah.
So,
Whereas they don't anymore.
Yeah. So, but most likely they still do. It just might be a
The
little...
structure is a little different.
Yeah.
They're not I think was before they were considered part of like the company command.
Yeah.
Whereas now they're just considered as like more of a company support.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so there's the leader of the chaplains and then 10 of them, one for each company.
Yeah.
Can we go back to honor guard for like 2 seconds?
You want to talk about ancients and chapter
Yes.
champions? Go for it, buddy.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys were going to go.
Jordan, you got the mute button ready for him?
I didn't know if you guys were going to go in depth on that or not.
You
so
can.
I was
No,
waiting for you to
that's
say
fine.
something.
That's fine. No, it's noteworthy.
Yeah, okay, so going back to the honor guard, usually 10, one of which will be the chapter champion. So he is the single best fighter in the entire chapter. His job is usually to challenge the highest ranking enemy champion as well and duel with them, essentially.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the chapter ancient, who's responsible for carrying the chapter's banner, the colors that, it's a holy relic to the entire chapter. They're I can't think of the word, but like they don't worship it, but has such
Revere?
Yeah, they revere it like so deeply, and it's such a great honor to carry that banner.
It's pretty much
like,
holy.
Usually, like, the banner is like thousands. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, the Ultramarine banner is from way back during, like, the Great Crusade.
Yeah,
like, it's
exactly.
a 10,000-year-old relic.
Yeah, so that's why it's like such a great honor to bear it into battle.
Yeah.
But it's such a heavy responsibility to carry it as well because you're not allowed to let that banner fall.
Yeah, and also now you're walking around a battlefield with guns, carrying a 10-foot banner, waving it around. You kind of become a fire magnet.
Yeah,
so,
a little bit.
Great burden. Great burden.
Great burden. Yeah. So.
Any other particular part of the honor guard you'd like to point out?
No, that's all. Do you want
Okay.
me to name each rank individually? No.
Can you for the new Primaris ones?
No, I don't know. I've never even seen honor guard for the new Primaris yet.
No,
I hope
no.
they make some.
Like, eventually they're going to have to. Like,
Yeah.
Like, they're... Yeah, it's fine.
Anyways,
I
we're
won't
getting
go on to a
sidetracked.
rant.
Yeah. Okay.
My one
Got the
buddy...
email.
My one
And we're
buddy,
sidetracked.
sent me like, I was on Reddit or whatever, and Lorehammer came up, and then he sent me a picture of it, and it was like top 5 Warhammer podcasts or whatever the title was or whatever. And we were on there. It's like, great podcast.
It said top tier.
Top tier podcast often gets sidetracked or something like that.
That's us.
Who likes kitties?
The
Ignore.
well, I'm trying to break that stigma, guys. Come on, I gotta break out.
I think you should just accept what you are.
Jordan did.
filthy Zoomka. That's me. You naughty old Zoomka.
Fuck yeah.
So after the Reclusium, you also have as part of your chapter headquarters your librarius, who is your chief librarian of the chapter, and then obviously he is responsible for the librarians within the chapter.
Yeah.
In
And
the library.
yeah.
Of
Obviously.
course. And responsible for signing out books and collecting overdue payments. Could you imagine?
Just kicking in children's doors. Your book is overdue.
Levitates.
Yeah, pretty well that. So there's a bunch of different ranks in the librarius.
What is a librarian, Mark?
Librarian is a psyker. He's a space marine who has psychic ability. So some of them can shoot lightning. Some of them can communicate vast distances through the warp. Like, each one kind of has its own specialty. Pyromancy,
Yeah.
telekinetics. You know, they all have their kind of branch of
Stealth.
warp. Stealth.
Stealth psyker. You can't see me.
Yeah, and there's different ranks in it.
Yeah.
But it's all led by the chief librarian.
Yes.
And this number, unlike the chaplain, is not set. Like, at one point in time, they had a huge psychic outburst population or whatever, and they had 50 librarians.
Well, yeah, just think about like a chapter who is like primarily psychic. Like, how would the Thousand Suns have fit into this?
Wow, they're
It's a little
chaos.
different,
So
yeah.
Okay, but what's another chapter that has like
Blood
a
Ravens.
right, like a very large number of psychics
Yeah,
in it?
it depends on the population they're recruiting from or
Yeah.
any given time.
Yeah.
Because the psychic gene.
He's
you
just
know.
going to be responsible for every single person
Yeah.
who possesses that ability.
yeah.
To be.
So you might
psychic.
only have one, you might have 50. Like,
Yeah.
it all depends.
How's recruitment going there, Chief Librarian Johnny? Fucking sucks.
I'm the only one.
Everyone's died. After your librarius, you have your apothecarion.
So these are the medics.
Yeah.
They're the surgeons. They
Doctors.
doctors. Yeah. Researchers. Scientists.
Yeah.
Lovers.
I'm not sure.
And they're led by a chief apothecary. And then usually there is like one per company. But then you also have like a bunch that are not like battlefield. Like they're battlefield capable, but they don't.
They're
ever
not
go-
currently like on the list of
Yeah.
battlefield like
Exactly,
going
because
to fight.
they're going around and collecting Space Marine recruits, doing that whole process, or they're healing wounded Space Marines or whatever.
right.
I don't know if there's a set amount, but we know there's going to be at least bare minimum 11 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have anything less just would pretty much kind of seal your fate as a doomed chapter.
Yeah.
Because if you can't bring one into combat, you're just gonna every time a Space Marine dies, you're pretty much consigning his gene seed as a loss.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Which would be devastating.
yeah. But like to become apothecary, I don't know if they actually have like Union IQ level of 37, you know, like they don't have any rules. Anyone could probably
Pretty sure mayonnaise has an IQ of 37.
I'm just saying, Eric.
Okay.
It was a random number I put out of my butt.
So is that fact. I don't think mayonnaise has an IQ of 37.
It probably should not. No.
No. It lives.
But yeah, they're the doctors, battlefield surgeons.
And then another thing that has changed actually from regular, like the older chapter style, is that the armory is now considered part of the headquarters, and the companies themselves don't have specific supports anymore.
Yeah, like all the vehicles are now in the armory, including like dedicated transports like the Rhino, which eventually is going to go out of production.
Yep. Yeah, but even like...
No, they'll just produce it for other forces.
Out of production for Space Marine use. Yeah. Like, Primaris Marines can't fit in them.
Yeah.
No,
So.
I know. Just accuracy, because other people use them too.
Who?
Inquisition.
Yeah, and even the Adeptus Arbites.
Yeah, they do use Rhinos.
All right. Well, so
Sisters of Silence.
Sisters of Battle.
Sisters of Battle,
Yeah,
yes.
that was a big one.
Yes.
Let's all just bring it down a little bit. Let's just talk with the soothing tone.
Real talk, guys. Real talk.
Lowerhammer.
So the armory would include obviously all the vehicles.
Yeah,
but
from
also,
Thunderhawks to Land Speeders.
But also Tech Marines
Yeah.
and Servitors.
Yeah. So Tech Marines are, the mechanics. They take care of all this stuff and they maintain it. They can build basic weapons and
Make repairs.
and
Yeah.
And this is a unset amount again. Who knows how many they have, but I'd imagine they'd have quite a few. Like I'd say around probably the range of 20.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Not enough.
That's not a solid number or anything. That's just like
I guess.
I could see that they would have 20. Like
And it depends chapter to chapter. Some chapters might have more vehicles, so they require more support. Some people have less vehicles. And less support.
Some chapters like the Iron Hands, they combine apothecaries and apothecaries and Tech Marines into the same rank, I believe.
Like same person. Like
Yeah,
the Tech
like,
Marine is
I think
responsible for.
Is it chaplains?
No, I think chaplains are
They're
Space Wolves.
Iron
and-
Fathers, right?
Yeah.
For Iron Hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chaplain and the apothecary is Space Wolves. I believe they do that.
Okay.
They combine that role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, like some of these chapters, they have their own unique practices where they combine roles or whatever. Some chapters they make their, like the Blood Ravens, which we've mentioned, they usually have their chief librarian as their chapter master even. But it's not a hard and fast rule. It just seems to happen.
Yeah,
often.
it's just a role, right?
Yeah.
That can technically be filled by anyone. Maybe not codex approved, but not heretical.
Yeah.
All right. So that would be the whole headquarter or the old school company command of your chapter. And then after you have that, you start breaking down into your 10 different companies.
Yeah.
And the first one is still and was before a veteran company. So it's comprised completely of all veterans. And it is led by a captain.
Yeah, and each captain has a different title for each company, and they're kind of in charge of different roles. We'll go over them all later, I think, just so we can ramble off a bunch and then kind of not break the flow. But each one does have like a title and a specific purpose other than for just leading the company in battle.
Yeah, he is in command of 2 lieutenants.
Yep.
And then those lieutenants are responsible for the rest of the chapter. And in the first, the veteran company, we had a little bit of a wonder period at this because it doesn't list specific squads. So we wondered more if these veterans who have probably gone through multiple different roles, like maybe they get to choose at any time which kind of squad or role they plan on fulfilling as a veteran.
Yeah, so in the old edition, like you would have Stern Guard and Vanguard. You kind of had your close combat veterans and your range veterans. And they're usually equipped like kind of...
It's actually a pretty
To fulfill
basic
their role.
but
Yeah.
it's actually pretty basic what they were equipped with, right?
Where nowadays, like, all we know for the first company is it's veterans. So there could be veteran intercessors, there could be veteran reavers, and it's like,
Ooh, reavers.
Reavers,
Get them
they're-
out of here.
there could be all these different types of veterans now. And to become part of the first company, you literally just have to be a veteran. And then it's like, do you leave your squad then and go become like a part of the veteran squad? Does your whole squad eventually become a veteran squad and you go in? We're not quite sure.
Yeah, we don't really have that kind of information out yet. I mean, the whole story behind Primaris is still pretty new.
Yeah.
Not as fleshed out as the
Yeah,
old,
it's
the
not really
previous one
thought out
was.
well.
Okay.
Rein them in. Rein them in.
But that is...
Here, Mark, look at this picture of the cat. Yes, you're calm. You're like,
Go to your happy place. There's no Primaris. There's no Primaris.
So each company will have 100 guys.
Oh, yeah. That's probably important to mention.
Yeah. Well, sure.
Womp womp.
Yeah, so you have like 100 like battle line people, and then you have like a small command staff of like 3 people. You have, like Eric said, a captain and 2 lieutenants.
The command of each company is much less than previous editions.
Yes.
Like the other one, they had their own, like, here's your company commander, here's his command, his honor guard, then here are your captains, then here are your sergeants. Like it was,
you had, like,
it really broke down.
Each company had its own banner bearer. Each company
had its own champion, its own ancient.
apothecary,
Yeah,
and yeah.
They've really, really simplified it. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. But.
No, ruined is the correct way. So
I love it.
the other thing that each company will have is a dreadnought stock. And once again, this is not a set number either. You might only have 1 dreadnought. You might have 15. You might have 0. Like, it all depends on the casualty rate, essentially, like, and the worthiness.
And the availability.
Of dreadnoughts,
a dreadnought, right?
Yeah.
You know.
What is a dreadnought, Mark?
I guess we didn't really
It is
mention
a knot of dread. Moving on.
A war of hammer. Yeah. No, a dreadnought is basically like an armored sarcophagus that can walk and shoot guns. And you put a crippled space marine in who is no longer able to be like a
Battle
functioning-
effective. Yeah.
He's either lost all his limbs and an eye. You know, it's
He's
it's
so
crazy
wounded
levels.
and like because space marines are so hardy, you know, you have to imagine it's significant damage, but damage that they inevitably survive with the help of some kind of life support system.
Yeah.
They're all bundled up into this dreadnought, usually reserved for somebody who's worthy of
That's
the
the other
honor.
big
They don't do it to
note.
anybody.
Or even some chapters. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Some chapters
Oh,
even
we're so
put
polite.
it.
I'm sorry, Mike. Go on.
Christian, you shut up.
Does this dreadnought thing at all seem like a government's program for handicapped people, like the jobs, a jobs program?
They're like, you can still serve.
Only in death does duty end, Jordan.
Only in death.
Some chapters even reserve dreadnought for like a punishment.
Really?
Yeah.
What
It's
chapter?
usually typically more chaos Astartes.
Okay.
Or renegade Astartes.
So will they like maim the marine?
No.
It's the thing with being in a dreadnought is like it's challenging to your psychological self to be placed in like a sarcophagus and then have your whole being like
Linked into this
into
being.
a machine and then to live for so long.
Yeah, and it's like
And-
at that point, do you need sleep anymore?
Yeah,
And,
you know,
like,
you start to
there's
ride
all-
this middle ground of like consciousness, like, am I a machine? Am I a man? Who am I? What was I? What do I do? You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot, it's very mentally taxing.
Yeah.
So, you know, while it's an honor and a burden, like many things Space Marines do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
They something about dreadnoughts as well though is very commonly they're actually not used, and it's only in very dire circumstances that they would even use a dreadnought. Dreadnoughts are actually kept in stasis for the majority of their time, and then when needed, they're like awakened from this. So I think his name was Bjorn, the Fell-Handed.
You think or you know? I know you know.
Yeah, I know. His name was Bjorn the Fell-Handed, and he's like a 10,000-year-old dreadnought.
Yeah,
because he was around during Istvan 5.
Yeah, he was
even there.
There with Lehman Russ even.
Yeah,
His own
exactly. So
Primaris,
this dreadnought like witnessed the Horus heresy and is still alive to this day as far as I'm aware.
Yep.
Okay.
Unless anything's changed recently.
Who knows?
Oh man, I didn't read the Space Wolf,
The new
the Fall of
Primaris.
Fenris stuff. No.
Oh, okay.
Spoilers.
Yeah. But yes, a dreadnought is a very interesting thing. It's the coolest thing to me about a dreadnought has always been like all you really need is like a brain and a heart. And even that, like, maybe they don't even need a heart. Maybe they can just artificially, like, circulate blood through your brain or whatever. Like, you could be nothing more than, like, consciousness floating in goop.
You're a consciousness
Interesting.
incarnate.
Right, with like wires like hooked up to like nodes in your brain, and
Yeah.
that's how you could control it, and that's all you are. And at that point, literally, like your body is the dreadnought.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these Marines are so crippled that like their senses are interfaced into the dreadnought. Now you can remove the sarcophagus and place it into another chassis, like with arms and legs and stuff. But if that sarcophagus is damaged or breached, the occupant will likely die.
Obviously,
because
yes. They just can't handle outside reality.
Well, yeah, they're just so. It's like taking them off life support essentially.
Nice. Good dreadnought tangent.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's cool.
they're sweet.
There was this
We'll
dreadnought.
do a whole dreadnought episode.
There was a dreadnought I bought once from Forge World when I was really
when you were young and naive.
When I was just a little
I
one.
was young. And naive.
When I was a young warthog. But I bought this one from Forge World, and it was probably one of the coolest dreadnoughts I've ever seen, only because it had a banner on his back, and then on that banner was just like a full human-sized skeleton.
I like to think that was the dreadnought skeleton.
They flayed him. They cut him open,
Took his
removed his
skeleton.
entire skeleton.
and now it's a banner.
Stuffed that like squishy mess into a
Yeah.
sarcophagus.
Hey, you know what? Why not? You know what?
It's
The
40K.
The Imperium's done weirder things, right? But it was just such a cool image of this, like this regal, like dreadnought walking around, just like a saint's body above him, like, I don't know, blessing him or whatever. Who knows? Who cares? But it was just a cool unit. I never played with it, never painted it. It's gone now.
I have it now.
In the fires of... You told me you didn't... You
Well,
told me you cut him in half.
I did cut him in half.
Yeah. As
for
do all
reasons.
things Mark touches,
You have to test
Ripped
the sharpness
in-
of his blade.
ripped in twain, like my soul. So first company, veteran.
Yeah.
Second company, or actually second to fifth, these are the battle companies. Also run by one captain, 2 lieutenants, whatever dreadnoughts are floating around from those specific companies.
Yeah.
And the different thing about this one is that they actually have squad denotion, so they actually can see like what role
Yeah,
they're
each
playing.
company has a set amount of
Yes,
X, a set
okay.
amount of Y, and a set amount of Z. So each company will have 6
battle line squads.
battle line squads, and these are the backbone of the army. They're intercessors. They're equipped with like
They're the new tactical marines.
essentially, yeah, they're the basic warrior.
Yeah.
And you got 60 of them in a company or 6 squads.
Yeah. After that, you have 2 close support squads.
Yeah, and these consist of reavers, which are like
Eric, is it your turn now?
It's the mask. I just hate the mask a lot.
The skull face?
Yeah, and the
we all hate them.
and the calf.
Yeah.
That calf's a weird muscle.
all-
Power armor
All
caprice.
And they also have interceptors, which are like a jump pack unit with like close range pistols. Heavy bolted pistols. Oh my god, that works. It's perfect. There's one more.
Jordan, this is your turn to
Get ready,
All right.
Jordan.
So in this squad, Jordan, there's also 2 fire support squads, which are
Aggressors.
that was the weakest wrench I've ever heard.
I don't know what I'm doing.
We're just hating on stuff, Jordan.
Why am I retching?
So they have they're consistent of aggressors and hellblasters.
So those are like their
Heavy
heavies.
support, yeah,
Yeah.
like
That's where you get your plasmas.
all special weapon squads
Yeah.
or like
You know what? It's a pro-con, it's a love-hate thing for me with this new Primaris. So it used to
Yeah.
be in your regular squads, you could outfit one of them with a special weapon or 2. And that had a really cool flavor to it.
Yeah.
But with this one, I also really like this because it's made it so much more uniform. Right? It's very like you get all these guys together and they're all the same. And it functions differently, right? You see it as like a little less... what's it called when you can cover all the bases at once?
tactical, intelligent.
It depends what you're trying to do.
Strategic.
Useful.
If you're trying to blow a hole in the wall, why do you need a guy with a chainsword?
Because
You don't. You need another guy with a plasma cannon.
Yeah,
right?
I get what he's saying. It's just like a force multiplier.
Yeah, but
Yeah, like-
it's a lot less. You can't deal with any scenario, but
what they
you
do
are
deal with,
much
they
more
do as well.
specialized. Yeah,
Yeah, like,
so
I would
I have
be-
a love hate with that.
I
one.
wouldn't be so opposed to it if it wasn't for they're just so similar to the Age of Sigmar.
Oh, okay.
Stormcast.
See, I don't
Like
I just don't like
including-
Stormcast.
Yeah, like including even like their naming conventions, like intercessors,
Interceptors.
interceptors. Yeah, like
I don't even know.
aggressors. Yeah.
yeah.
I-
But anywho,
I didn't even know they were so close to that. But
They
you
are,
do see
but-
like a similarity, even in size, aren't they the exact same size?
they'd probably
pretty
be
much.
similar scale.
Yeah,
don't
they're
know
close
if-
enough. Yeah.
But anywho, so there's 100 guys. You got 60 basic guys. You got 2 close range guys, or 20. I mean, sorry, 20 close range guys, and then 20 like heavy weapons types guys.
Yep. So
Whereas-
as the company as a whole, pretty solid. All right, now we start getting into the reserve companies. So the 6th and the 7th company are obviously both have a captain, both have 2 lieutenants.
Yeah.
And then they are like made up of 10 battle line squad reserves.
So 100 intercessors. And the point of all these reserve squads is reserves. Like, you know, your battle line companies are taking
Right, like there's a
casualties.
parking spot and it's reserved, so they take the spot so for the next guy to come in. Yeah, I get it.
It's a way complex way of explaining.
But yeah, like the battle companies are the ones that are doing the majority of fighting, and then when they're taking casualties, the reserves company are sent in to reinforce the losses.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Pretty self-explanatory, but
Also, the next reserve company, 8th, also a captain, also 2 lieutenants, and this time it's made of 10 close support squads.
so once again, reavers are interceptors.
Yep, and whatever dreadnoughts are that are linked to that
Yeah.
company. Because if you become a dreadnought while you're a part of the 6th company, you stay part of the 6th company forever.
Yeah.
Right, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So same thing, if you become a dreadnought while you're part of the 1st company, you stay part of the 1st company forever.
Yeah.
All right. 9th company, also reserve, 1 captain, 2 lieutenants, 10 fire support squads, and a partridge in a pear tree.
And yeah, once again, it's Hellblasters and aggressors that are consistent. So whether they do a 50-50 split, who knows? It might even depend on the
That would
chapter.
depend on the chapter, I would assume. Like,
I would
do they
too.
prefer using Hellblasters or do they prefer using
I would
aggressors?
imagine like the Codex, Astartes, the typical way is a 50-50 split. But like, yeah, you're definitely right. Some chapters might really like aggressors. Like Salamanders, they
Yes.
love the aggressors with the Flamestorm gauntlets. Like
Yeah,
they just
yeah.
fucking love fire. So they'd probably have like
Bunch of
all
pyros.
bunch of pyros.
The 10th company is a little bit of
Yeah, we were-
wondering for us.
Yeah, we were trying to figure this out too.
So, obviously a captain, obviously 2 lieutenants, but we don't really know how scouts fit into Primaris yet. Or if they are scouts?
Yeah, like
Theoretically,
It would make sense to me that they're still
they
scouts.
still have scouts because they're just implanting new organs.
Right.
So the beginning processes of becoming a Space Marine, at least in my opinion so far until GW writes something different,
yeah.
you're going to have to assume that that's the way things are.
That's what we're leaning towards too.
Yeah, the only thing is we don't have any description of how a scout functions now because it's completely changed. There's no description
Yeah.
of any kind of war gear. Are they active on the
Yeah.
battle
yeah,
line?
could they be like held in reserve until they're ready to
Yeah,
go on
like-
the front lines?
Yeah.
Do they wait completely until they're ready to join a reserve? And
Yeah.
So we haven't really found an answer for that one yet.
Yeah.
But
But we'll keep looking and we'll get back to you when we know.
yeah. So that is a very basic mock-up of 10 Primaris companies. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, there are chapters who mix between Primaris and Space Marines. Those function obviously a little different.
Yeah.
But most things, there's enough crossover for you to understand
Yeah.
what would go where.
Yeah, like we were talking, I don't know if we mentioned in the last episode or if it got cut, but we were saying like the percentage of old Marines versus Primaris Marines in the current fluff. We were just taking rough guesstimates. Who knows if it's written down anywhere or whatever. But there's been 200 years that the Primaris have been around.
And some of the heaviest fighting the Imperium has ever known.
Yeah, like Horus Heresy level fighting, where they're losing like thousands of Space Marines in battles. Like Like they would take like Imperial Guard level casualties in battles, you know, like.
Whoa, don't get
Maybe not
don't get
quite.
carried
Okay.
away ahead of yourself.
Sorry, everyone.
Apologize right now.
But yeah, so like you would imagine that like, you know, 80% of the chapters have been wiped out. Like,
And even some of the most significant chapters, like the Space Wolves and Blood Angels, have been written in that, you know, they've taken heavy casualties in their encounters.
yeah.
You know?
So what heavy is actually officially defined as, we're not sure. But like, I
Well,
don't know,
it's-
a safe bet would be like 30% of the Marines are the old Marines. And then the
If
rest-
that, because they've stopped making them.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's, if you were able to make both, then yeah, you could assume 50-50, but
Yeah.
it's just, they're not making them anymore.
Yeah. So-
And it's not like they're not fighting.
No.
Right? They're not being like, oh, we're endangered species now, so don't fight anymore. They're still going into the thick of it.
They'll
Yeah.
bite themselves into extinction,
Yeah.
which is both noble and sad.
Yes.
More depressing than anything.
Yeah. But maybe like in new codexes, they're like, oh, we're going to have the 5th company all just dedicated to Old Kron. Or not Old Kron, but Old Marines.
You get out of here, you.
Like, you know, and that way, because the old Space Marines, they can't keep up with the new Space
No.
Marines. Like, physically,
I
they
mean,
can't do it.
yeah.
Emotionally.
Like, sexually.
They're prowess.
So, like, to me, it would make sense that they round up all the old ones, they put them in a company, and
put them in a room and then just kill.
launch them into space,
Into the sun.
No.
crown them into dust,
Grind their bones into dust.
and launch them into the sun. But once again, that's kind of all just speculation on our part.
Yeah.
But
We don't have the information yet.
yeah.
Soon, TM. Okay, so I think after this, Mark, you wanted to go over the different captain titles for us?
Yeah, so I'll let you know, and then a brief description of kind of what they are and what company. So the
No,
first,
don't worry, Mark. I'll say the definition.
Okay,
I know everything that's going on. You tell me what it is. I'll tell you what they do.
Okay, first company, Mandrake.
He likes oranges. Is that not a thing? No, he's the master of the oranges. He's responsible for the orange distribution
In the chapter.
making sure there's no vitamin C deficiencies. There was a scurvy outbreak in the 35th millennium, and then
Tangent.
no, go back.
So the first company captain is the Regent. So he will usually be like the face of the chapter. You know, he's gonna go to all the meetings that the Imperial Guard are having. He's the face of the chapter.
So he's kind of like the chapter master's right hand man.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, because no one else on the honor guard would fill that role. They're too busy
No.
being bodyguards. So
And they might
he's
not have
literally-
that-
He's literally the captain of the veterans.
Yeah.
Right. So if anyone's in line next to be chapter master, it's that guy.
Usually, yeah. But not in all cases. And could
I'm just using logic, bud.
I'm just saying. Yes, though, you are right. Yeah. In most cases, and you can assume that it would be him next in line.
All right, Mark. Company number 2.
Master of the Watch.
Ooh, that's a Dark Angel thing.
Nope.
Yep. Only Dark Angels have Masters of the Watch, and they are watching
Fuck.
the dark. They are the Dark Watchers.
If ever a room gets dark, they run in there. They kick that
They're
open.
like, hey, it's really dark in this room.
There's heresy going on.
We may or may not want to join.
They're usually in charge of like the homeworld. Like, not that they're always stationed there, and a lot of these titles are just kind of titles. Like,
And in some cases, too, it could also take on, like, if the chapter lords over a world or a set of worlds, they might take a practical world and, like, the administration of a planet.
yeah.
So
Right
it
down
could
to
be,
food
yeah.
dis-
It could be
distribution
everything
and-
from just a title with no real significance to literally being in charge of, like, governing that
I would
world.
assume that, like, my understanding of it more is when the Imperium comes and liberates your planet.
Liberates.
Well, obviously.
Missiles of Liberty.
When
Missiles of Liberty.
you see a
You know what,
picture,
Christian? We're not going to kill you at the end of this.
a picture of a missile and it freezes frame and on it says, "For your freedom." But no, like if they were ever to get a planet and get it into compliance, like they are responsible for making sure it complies with Imperial commands, maybe until the Administratum is able to send like a more human person. To me, it would be an interesting role to me that there is like a Space Marine who is much more involved in civilian affairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, chapter to chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Ultramarines would have that.
Definitely.
For sure, yeah.
Where, yeah.
They're
Marines
responsible for
malevolent will
500
probably
worlds.
massacre their own planet.
So the next one, third
Just for
company,
giggles.
Master of the Arsenal.
Yes, or as I like to call it, Master of the
God.
Arse.
Yes.
And anal, obviously.
Arsenal.
Master of the Arse anal.
Yeah.
He's just responsible for that.
He goes around and he gives everyone
a little butt tap.
Good job.
Yeah,
Good job, soldier. Good job.
Sounds about right. All right, we're good. Next company. No, sorry, Mari.
No, I love it. That's good. They're in charge of like ammunition stores and keeping track of like, oh, we have 87 bolt guns. Like, and they're in track of
We
keeping.
prefer to call them Liberty launchers.
We have 87 Liberty launchers. You can have a Liberty launcher.
87 grenades of freedom.
Yeah.
Made.
The next one, fourth company, is Master of the Fleet.
Pretty good. He just he does all the races. He's the one who judges all the races that all the chapter participates in.
Makes sense.
He sees who's the fleetest.
the fleetest of foot.
Yeah, exactly.
He's in charge of the fleet, the spaceships that they have from,
Now, do you
the
think
battle
that
cruisers too?
because they used to have like humans who were like part of the consular, like
Yeah.
way back in Legion time,
Yeah.
right? And they were like the masters of the fleet. And they were responsible for like the people on it and steering and piloting and captaining the ship. Do you think he's taken that role?
Yes.
Yes and
So
no.
you think he like commands where the ships go?
Some ships have a Space Marine captain even in the Legion days. It depends on
Really?
the
Yeah,
ship
okay.
itself, yeah. But yeah, definitely now like the Space Marines are running their own ships.
Yeah.
Just because there's so few and their fleets are so much smaller than they used
Yeah,
to
like
be.
they only have like, 5 to 10 if they're lucky ships. So even to have a captain, or I mean a Space Marine captaining each ship, it's
Not that big a
really-
deal.
No. Like, yeah. Master of the Marches.
Yep, makes sense. When
So-
they need someone to march around, this guy.
No, they're only in charge
Coordinates
in
it.
the month of March.
Only in the month of March. Yeah.
They're in charge of overseeing like the chapter's deployment. So they're kind of like second company's going to deploy here, third company's going to deploy here. They're also like really good at logistics and stuff. So they just do
It
the
sounds like it would take obviously they're all going to take a tactical mind.
Yeah.
But he just probably has like a really good understanding of each unit's like specific
Yeah.
their good things and their bad things and where
Yeah,
they'll shine.
exactly. They know where to deploy what for the most juice.
Right.
Or the most bang for the
Yeah,
buck.
and they might even have like a personal like the sergeant is particularly good.
Right, no,
as an
that's
individual.
what I
Yeah.
more meant. He would understand what each one has like as at a personal level,
Yeah.
not even
Not just, like,
necessarily
just a
as an
tactical
intercessor.
level.
This is
Yeah.
how they would go. Yeah.
Yeah. Next one is Master of the Rights, and he's of the 6th Company.
Well, I mean that one's pretty obvious.
He's a lawyer
No,
defending
he just
the rights of
Space Marine. And when he has to fight, he just uses his right hand.
Is it right like RIGHT or RITE?
Second one.
Okay.
Oh, it's
all
like
right.
their rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a ritual.
Yeah, exactly. They're in charge of all that.
Not what
That's
I
what-
was thinking.
The next one.
There are
we
no
covered that
human
one?
rights in
Pretty good.
40K.
There are no human rights, but there are Space Marine rights.
The next one is the Chief Victular. Victorial.
That's about food, isn't it? Victuals?
Victual?
How do you say it, Christian? I don't know.
I actually
Let's
don't
see.
even know. Yeah,
That
is
is the
Victulier.
Victualler, guys, come on.
Victulier.
Victulier.
And honestly, I have no idea what this one would be.
There's
in
no
charge
link
of.
for it?
No.
Interesting.
I'll Google it. You keep talking.
8th Company, Lord Executioner.
I have no idea.
No?
I'm stuck on that one.
Oh, really? Yeah, Rick. So there.
Is it because he's so execute?
Oh my god.
Go home.
So they're usually like, wow, as the name implies, executioners. If a Space Marine did something totally egregious, he would be in charge of executing them. But he's also in charge of like the company that's made up of like the close combat guys.
So
like Reavers,
like the reserve one.
Yeah.
So he would like number 8.
Yeah, like he's in charge of like these like brutal,
Oh, that
like-
makes more sense
Yeah,
because
so
everything
maybe-
they do is like an execution.
Yeah,
right?
so maybe like if there was like a particularly foe that has dishonored them, he would be the guy to like go in there and like claim back the honor.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, I found a definition of victualler. It is 1 L though, so I don't know if it implies the same thing.
That's just low Gothic, so it's fine.
It was a supply ship, but the actual definition of today is a person who's licensed to sell alcoholic liquor, or a
And-
person providing or selling food or other provisions.
Yeah, victualler, like victual.
So he's like the
is-
master of the mess hall kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
Distributes alcohol and food.
And he's the chief.
Every army runs on alcohol and food.
I mean, supplies is like the number one thing that makes your army go.
Yeah.
You need munitions.
An army marches on its stomach. Napoleon Bonaparte.
Get filthy Frenchy.
Never heard of him.
Don't worry. He was.
that?
It went over
Irrelevant.
his head. It went over his head anyway. So
Next we have Ninth Company, Master of Relics. So
interesting.
lots of companies have been around for thousands of years, and they've got these crazy relics. Like it could be a tank that has survived for 10,000 years and it's just like
Been in so many battles.
and have like the old tech, which is the good tech.
yeah,
you know,
the good tech.
and he's in charge of like them.
Yeah.
And
Where would you normally find all the relics of a chapter
in the armory
or the reliquary?
or the reliquary, depends on the relic.
That's
itself.
what I was looking for.
Okay, like, you're not gonna find a tank in the reliquary.
Says who?
The room size.
Say that to what's Helbrecht's ship called?
Eternal Crusader.
Eternal Crusader. That thing's massive. He could fit a tank in his reliquary if he wanted. You don't tell him what
Build
to
a
do.
new wing.
For my new tank.
The next one
Have you guys have
Oh,
seen
yeah.
that like YouTube thing of him? It's like Grimalgus. It's such a terrible voice for
From
him.
the audiobook.
Yeah, the audiobook, which is really cool and totally worth watching. I've watched it like 30 times.
And 10th Company, Master of Recruits.
Let that be the last time you take a blow unanswered. Like he sounds like he's missing half his throat.
Yeah, good thing he's not in the entire book, eh? Otherwise it would really put you out
It
of
would be
place.
annoying. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, so-
Sorry, 10th Company, Mark?
Master of Recruits.
Makes complete
Yeah,
sense.
straightforward.
Yeah.
There is one other rank that
Ooh, do tell.
who knows where it takes the spot of, but it is pretty common, and it's the Master of Signaling.
Like literally like signaling.
Yeah.
Like as in like red means stop, green
Yes, sir.
means go.
Yes, sir.
Odd.
That's why it's another rank. It's not
It's not that
particularly-
important.
It's like if ever there's a space marine that had like trouble like listening to orders, it's like Iconius, go see the master of signaling because clearly you've forgotten what red means versus what green means.
Yeah.
And he goes for his punishment.
So
Probably in charge of
all
comms
these
and everything.
titles. Oh yeah.
What's that?
Just in charge of comms. Right? I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify
No,
that.
yeah,
That's not
yeah.
actually what you thought.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Good.
You mean
there-
it's not what he is? Oh.
There are a bunch
I
of
never know
chapters
with you,
out
Eric.
there, and each one of them can come up with their own terms. I'm just going to ramble off some Blood Angel one just for fun.
Yeah, cool.
I'm not going to go into any
They have a
detail.
lot more flavor when they're done by chapter specific.
Yeah. Like they have the Shield of Baal, Master of Sacrifice, Keeper of the Arsenal, Caller of the Fires, Lord of Skyfall, Master of Sieges, Wardens of the
Hold
Gate.
on, Lord of Skyfall is James Bond.
Yeah, he's the Lord of it, yes.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he's in the Blood Angels army.
Gotcha.
So, like, you can have anything, really. Master of Arms, Lord of Burning Skies, Spear of McCraig is another one. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Obviously the chapter like is allowed to add as much or take away as much as
Yeah.
they want, right?
Yeah.
As long as they're not deemed hereticus.
Yeah. What? That covers that. What next?
Next is company colors.
So, we're going to talk about, like, their coloring and their heraldry for a bit.
Space Marines don't believe in camouflage.
No, sir, they do not. And they take pride in their colors to the point where most of them will, like, after a battle, repolish their armor, make sure
Or
everything's
reapply paint, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're
'Cause-
Death Guard.
most chapters. Not all.
Yes, yes. Yeah, a good example to think of like medieval knights, right? Like displaying their heraldry prominently on the battlefield.
as a sign of like honor.
Honor and also to help people identify you.
Right.
So the first company on like if you look at a Space Marine on their shoulder pads, they have a piece of trim. Then they got the flat part that's their actual
Which shoulder pad?
both.
Okay.
And this color will designate what company you are a part of. So if you're in the first company, you have a white trim. If you're in the second, you have yellow or gold. Third, you have red. Fourth, you have green. Fifth, you have black. Sixth, you have orange. Seventh, you have like a pinkish, reddish maroon, maybe? Eric's
What
colorblind.
color does
You-
it say?
It doesn't say any. It just
Oh, it's just
shows
a
the
color? It looks gray to me.
Are you actually colorblind?
Yes, but I don't want to talk about it. I like
On
to be
air.
I like to be the one to share that, Mark.
You've shared it.
I'm also colorblind. I don't see black people.
Nope, not high-fiving that one.
I'll take you up on that.
Thanks, bud.
Nope.
White.
I don't see race.
Question.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Not at all.
So the eighth company has gray.
Like
then-
real gray?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ninth is a blue, and the scout company is white. It also they don't have a trim, so
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Because first company is
yeah.
white,
Yeah, so
but
it's
yeah,
really
because Scout
more.
Company doesn't have actual shoulder pads.
They do. They just don't have like the trim. They have shoulder pads, but yeah, they don't have a trim. They're not really designated.
Okay.
So depending on the company, the trim on your shoulder pad will be painted that color. Then the other big key heraldry piece is your chapter symbol, and that will always be on your left shoulder. And the higher up in the ranks, the more like crazy your symbol starts to look.
So
potentially.
what goes on your right shoulder then?
Your right shoulder will be your squad markings.
Right, so that's the difference between intercessors, interceptors.
Yeah.
All of those have a different marking that would appear on your right shoulder.
Yeah,
So,
so-
you can tell, like, even if someone wasn't holding a gun,
Yeah.
you would be able to tell what squad they're in,
Yeah, what company they're
what
from.
and what company they're from, and just by colors and probably symbol on their right shoulder, you'd be able to tell what chapter they're from.
Yeah.
So, something else though, is there a way to tell squads specifically in companies?
Yes,
Like if you
like
have
each-
multiple
yeah,
battle
yeah.
line squads.
Yeah.
Okay.
So inside the squad symbol, so if you're like a battle line squad, an intercessor, you have like the arrow. Inside that symbol, you'll have 1, 2,
Okay.
3,
So
4,
what
depending
what,
on your
what would be the symbol for intercessors?
it would be that pointed arrow.
So it's an arrow going up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually it's up.
Sometimes it's 2 arrows pointing in opposite directions.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Is
as
it
well.
really?
That was the old heresy symbol for tactical.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would be an interceptor symbol?
They're close range, so they would have like think an X, but an arrow on the end of each X.
Gotcha. Aggressors.
So they're like the long range support or the fire support, and they would have like what's the symbol on a space or a Spartan shield? Like the lambda.
Lambda, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a V, upside down V.
Okay. Hellblasters.
Same upside down V.
Okay. Oh, really? Aggressors and Hellblasters have the same one?
They're both fire support. Right?
Yeah, they
It
are.
means heavy support, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Reavers have
interesting.
the-
So you actually wouldn't be able to tell an aggressor or a Hellblaster apart just
You
by
would be
staring
able
at
to.
them.
Well, their
because their
armor
armor
is
is different.
significantly
Oh, okay.
different.
Yes. And then Reavers themselves,
They're the X with arrows on the end, and you could tell them apart from.
because they look really dumb because they have skull masks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And also have different power armor, too.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's a couple other like they have tons of markings. Like sometimes they put like campaign badges on their knee or squad markings on their knee. Like they have tons of
And
different.
in crazy cases, they'll have personal heraldry too.
Yeah,
If-
yeah. Like
you know.
captains will usually have a little shield, a besigue, some would say, on their.
Ooh, so
that is what it's called.
Yeah, and they'll have like their personal heraldry on it.
Okay.
The other one to note is veterans will have. Is it called the Iron Cross? Like obviously it's called the Crux Terminatus.
It's not quite an iron cross,
But it's very
it's
similar.
very similar. Yeah.
Like if you're trying to get a general picture of it, that's what it kind of looks
yeah,
like.
it's
So
it's
where-
an even sided
where
cross.
does that one go?
essentially.
So that would go on your squad symbol. So like
on top of, so you
No, because like in the veteran company, there is no.
That
or at
is your
least-
symbol.
Yeah.
That becomes your squad symbol.
Yeah.
Well, because in the old school veteran company, you were all technically either string guard or vanguard, and you knew
But
exactly.
in the new one now,
in the
you're,
new one, it's changed a little bit, so we don't know exactly.
yeah, maybe they combine it. Like I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
but
So the heraldry on the veteran company is a little iffy still.
and then like often they have like depending on the chapter once again. But we'll just give a couple other examples that are pretty common. Like usually captains will wear like a cape with their company color on it. Some guys will have helmet crests if you're a sergeant. Like
Or even like what's the crest that's just painted differently?
Yeah,
like the helmet is painted differently.
yeah,
even.
some chapters have red helmets to distinguish sergeants,
Right.
or white helmets to distinguish veterans. Like it all varies chapter to chapter.
And this
Blood Angels
really-
change the color of their helmet based on what role
Yeah,
they're
like
in. So, like,
Devastator or Heavy Support is yellow.
yeah, like the whole helmet will be that color. Is
Yeah.
it yellow or blue?
Yellow.
I don't know specifically.
And then like their close range support is blue, and then like their battle line is just red.
yeah, so
That's something to me that I actually always really liked about Space Marines was that they were so detailed in how they looked that you could build their chapter and
Yeah.
like paint it like perfectly.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that was always a really cool thing. Like,
Yeah.
And also the rules are so set that you can work within them
Yeah.
to create your own chapter and still have it be like perfectly done. And
Yeah.
I always thought that was really
No,
cool.
yeah, it's awesome for
Yeah.
sure. But I think that's really kind of gives you the idea of it. Like when we go into episodes where we're actually talking about specific chapters, we'll tell you more.
Yeah, because every chapter is going to be a little bit different from
Yeah.
the next. So obviously, there's no one size fits all for this.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else when it comes to markings or heraldry or?
No, I don't think so. I guess there's maybe one other thing.
Okay.
I haven't seen it on Primaris Marines, but on Old Marines, sergeants used to have back banners with like the squad symbol or iconography on like a back banner that would like hang off their backpack.
yeah.
Not always.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought you meant like pole that goes up, but no, this goes down and hangs over top of their backpack, right? Like the little cloth. Or are
No,
you talking
no,
about the
it
one that
goes
goes up?
on
I'm
their
talking about
back,
like the
yeah.
like the pole.
Yeah, back
Yeah.
banner.
Oh.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
the name suggests,
the banner
on your
the
back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something else to note.
All right. Well, if that's the case, let's talk about individual squads and what they will use. So the first one we're going to talk about are intercessors. And a lot of these, like, it's going to be really quick, pretty standard. But an intercessor uses a combat blade, a bolt pistol, a bolt rifle, which is different than a bolt gun.
Yeah.
It's slightly better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Call.
They can also use bolt carbines and bolt stalkers, I believe.
Yeah.
Each one kind of has a slightly different role.
Slightly different profile. One of them I
Yeah,
think is heavy.
profile and
One of them I
roll
think is
Assault.
and rapid fire, I think.
Yeah.
And then they wear Mark 10 Tacticus armor.
Yeah. And
So that's
we kind of went over their role. Like they're the frontline soldiers. They're kind of equipped for every situation type thing. Like they all have the same war gear and they can just they're good at most situations.
yeah. The next would be interceptors, and these guys carry assault bolters. So, what is an assault bolter? Because it's not something I've seen before.
It's a compact, heavy bolter wielded single-handedly, usually one in each hand.
So
Why?
is it actually described?
For the lulz?
Science.
Is it actually described as a heavy bolter?
Yeah.
And the profile is a heavy bolter.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I get the profile is.
So
So I
back-
wonder if it's actually described.
For
as a heavy
comparison's
bolter.
sake, yeah, old heavy bolters are, as the name suggests, heavy, so they're very large, fire
They were
larger
bigger
caliber,
than like a chest.
bolt round, and a space marine will wield it two-handed, have
Had a backpack
feed with ammunition because it shoots so quickly. So they found a way to make that small enough to fit in one hand.
Miniaturization technology.
Yeah. It's
We call it a
it's the
minigun.
Jokeros.
Jacaros.
The Jokeros. The Jopkeros, right, Mark? They helped.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
bullshit. That's what it is. It's bullshit.
They also use plasma exterminators, which are
They're just like handheld They're not quite a pistol, but they're not quite a rifle.
Okay.
They're
They're not miniaturized plasma cannons, are they?
they might be
Oh my gosh.
like
It hurts.
It's fucking bad.
They also have jump packs,
Yep.
Yeah.
and they are equipped with Mark 10 Gravis armor.
Yeah, so you can kind of think they're tactical use, just they got jump packs, maybe they're good at deep striking, the Thunderhawk or the Overlord flies over a fortress, drops all these guys in, and
Yeah.
they fly down, they shoot. Like
Capable of like doing like heavy damage.
Yeah.
Obviously
you
good at
land
breaching
in,
walls.
you land in, you just do terrible damage.
Terrible.
Can we also talk about their armor for a second?
Sure.
So it is modified than the regular Mark 10. So these are all variations of the Mark 10. All Primaris Marines use a version of Mark 10. And these ones also have like leg supports to help them absorb impacts from falling from great heights.
Yeah,
so
they
that's
look like
why
weird stilts.
Yeah, you'll see them. They'll like clip into those. Yeah, that's my
All
2
right.
cents.
Aggressors use Bolt Storm gauntlets.
Power fists,
They're basically power fists with bolters under.
underslung.
Looks
Yeah.
like the fists of McCraig.
Yeah, sure.
No?
No, that's.
It's what I think of when I hear like power fists.
I had that tone because I don't think that's what that weapon's called, but
Yeah,
Oh.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I think is it the gauntlets of Ultraman?
Oh,
that's what it
yeah,
is.
that's what it is. Fists of
Eric.
McCraig, what's
Eric.
the difference?
Eric.
Same
If you don't know,
thing.
don't say it.
I should just leave the podcast. They also have flame gauntlets.
so similar thing. They got a power fist with a flamer underslung.
Yeah. That's like a much more common thing you'd see on like dreadnoughts, right?
Yeah.
Did it used to be on like regular Marines as well?
I've never seen it before. They had one with the Melta version,
Yeah.
but I mean, I
Was
don't
that
know.
like more of a combi thing where it was just like a one-off, or was it?
I've only ever seen it on a one-off
Like,
situation. But
Yeah, they used to be like specialized weapons, but
Right.
now they're not.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty
Now it's just regular
massively
mass production.
distributed, Yeah.
Okay. They also have Frag Storm grenade launchers.
These are usually like mounted on their back, and it's just like rocket.
I actually
pods.
really like that they have like these back-mounted like pods on their
Yeah,
back now.
yeah.
Like to me, I'm like, yeah, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you do that? Sure, you put a
Yeah.
banner up there, or you could put grenades,
Or you could put a cyclone missile launcher.
or you could put a cyclone missile launcher.
No.
No?
No.
These guys are equipped with a Gravis pattern power armor.
Yeah.
It's just a little heavier looking.
It does look a
it's-
little bulkier.
Yeah, its head is more encased.
Yeah, it's almost like a cross between.
It's like a half step to Terminator armor.
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite.
What it's like is like if a Terminator had sex with
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are they called?
Centurion?
Centurion armors.
I could see that.
Yeah,
Wait, you can picture the sex, or
like yeah, we can.
What I do in my free time is my own thing.
all right, Hellblasters. They are equipped with bolt
Oh,
pistols.
can we go back to the other guys? Aggressors, they're just made to be like right in the very center of your battle line, and like you're pushing forward unit.
the spear
Yeah.
tip?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they are
they're
like a
just-
cross between Devastators and Terminators.
Yeah.
Interesting role.
Yeah.
Hellblasters. They are come equipped with a bolt pistol and a plasma incinerator.
Bolt pistol.
No,
No,
that's a reverse.
no.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
oof.
It's
You
just
were-
a regular
I was wrong.
bolt pistol.
Oh, I will leave
You
the
better
podcast.
shut your mouth. Everyone will commit seppuku at the end of this episode to atone for their
Nice.
sins.
Can we use one sword? Just drive it through the four of us. Just line up.
Well, just for economy's sake, in this economy, you can't afford
we can only
to buy.
afford one samurai
Yeah.
sword.
And it'll snap by the time it gets past the first person
Because they're shit.
because they're not good.
Because they're shitty swords made by people. Well, no, they're made by
No.
shitty people. They're made by white people who think they're Japanese. The
That's
Japanese
true.
swords are sweet.
Yeah, but they're also bad swords. But that's
Yeah.
just metal. That's just the
Neither
metal's
here nor
fault.
there.
Yeah, and actually, it was over there. It wasn't here. It wasn't here. It was over there.
They're Japanese sword manufactured in China. Think about that.
All right.
Outrageous. Okay, Hellblasters.
Hellblasters, yes. So plasma incinerators, is that better than a regular plasma rifle?
Yeah.
All right, next. Thank you, Mark.
Everything's better.
But
like
the thing that's worth noting about the plasma that Primaris uses is apparently it's much more stable. So old school plasma could it had as a rule on tabletop at least called gets hot, where it could overheat on like a roll of a 1 or something, right? And it would blow up in their hands and do damage to the unit around you. So it was kind of a double-edged sword when you were using it.
Yeah, it can do a lot of damage, or it could backfire.
Right, or it could backfire and
anyway.
explode and do damage around you. But
yeah,
this
like-
new plasma, it has no ability to do that.
No, it can. You can still overload it, but you can choose to overload it. It has 2 weapon profiles.
Oh, interesting. But will it ever do damage to people around you?
No, just to the wielder.
Oh, okay.
Which is just like the old.
Oh,
version.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have the Tacticus armor. Or
So
whatever.
same as the intercessors.
Yeah. Up next, we got Reaver. So Hellblasters, like, you can kind of assume what they're used for due to their weaponry, like their heavy support.
Yeah,
You
of
know, if a
course.
tank comes rolling up, you call in the Hellblasters to take it out.
Or heavy enemy infantry.
Yeah. Reavers, they're equipped with heavy bolt pistol, not to be confused with bolt pistols, not to be confused with bolt guns,
Yeah.
not to be confused with bolt
Heavy.
carbines,
Right.
Not
Or
to be,
heavy bolters.
or heavy bolters,
Assault bolters.
not to be confused with any of those
Bolt
things.
rifles.
Nope, none of those.
Yep.
Maybe heavy bolters.
Wait, what was the first one?
So they got a heavy bolt pistol, they or a bolt carbine, a combat knife, and they got Mark 10 Phobos armor.
An interesting thing is that in order to wield the bolt carbine, they actually have to give up the bolt pistol and the combat knife.
Yeah, it's like a little heavier.
Yeah.
It's
No, that's
It
just...
is what it is.
It
Mike.
is awful. And
I actually don't mind that personally.
What?
Giving up the combat knife and the
Oh
bolt
no,
pistol.
I'm more mad about naming conventions
Oh,
and
I
how
see.
there's now 1,000 different weird bolters.
Wait, but there already were 1,000 different weird
But they're
bolters.
ultimately all we're just bolters. Like now they're all like uniquely different, and don't confuse your heavy bolt gun with your heavy bolters.
Sure, I
Like,
can see that.
And like now it's just like so many weird.
Yeah, but that's like showing someone, hey, here's a bolt gun. And they're like, oh, cool, what does it fire? And you're like, well, one of 30 different kinds of rounds, perchance, that all do different things, perhaps, maybe? Right? Like, honestly, like, I didn't even know there were, like, it took me a long time to find out there were just different kinds of bolter rounds. And that some would, like, negate cover, and some were good for night, and some were good for this, and some were good for that. It just took a long time.
accent. You kinda
What
let it-
accent is that?
I don't know.
It's a meme, not you.
Yeah, and so Reavers are meant to be terror squads, even more terrifying than an already terrifying 8-foot-tall super soldier shooting semi-automatic rocket or full automatic rocket launchers at you. But these guys are even more terrifying because they kill you when you're not looking, and they got a skull helmet on. It's fucking retarded. It's fucking brutal, man.
They are described as like what, being really good at getting in unseen or something.
Yeah,
They
Like-
take on a scout roll. Their armor is a lot lighter than the other armors.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah,
I don't
they
know
use-
if it actually effectively is lighter. It just looks thinner
Just
and
looks-
smaller.
it would be lighter because it looks like there's less pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they also use grav shoots
For dropping in stealthily and terrifying the enemy.
and grapnel
Unheard and unseen.
Yeah.
and grapnel
Leaving only
launchers.
dead bodies, terrified dead bodies behind. Like,
Someone comes by and sees the dead body. Clearly that one died scared.
let's be honest. Like, in 40K, if a guy wearing a skull helmet came running at you,
Yeah.
that's not terrifying.
You've probably
In
seen
40K?
worse.
Exactly.
Sorry, hold
in
on.
40K,
What world are you on?
Yeah, it
Any.
depends. No.
Feudal
they're,
world?
they're loyalists.
You're screwed.
They're loyalists, so.
Feudal? You've
No,
never,
no,
you-
no. Like,
okay.
Reavers are loyalists.
Sorry,
Sorry,
They're going to
you're
be
fighting
medieval.
chaos.
Medieval.
No.
Medieval
I know
worlds.
what you're saying.
Right.
But here's the thing. Reavers aren't going to medieval human worlds killing peasants.
We're killing
Right? They're killing Xenos who have faced the horrors of the galaxy.
You don't know that.
I agree with you, Eric.
Right.
Sure, it might happen.
So
but
there
that's-
are going to be some
and they
people.
will be terrified.
And just
those peasants will be
Just
terrified.
as there
Whether
are
you're
some
wearing
of
a scary skull mask or the fact you're firing a fucking explosion gun that is magic and they have
Are-
no fucking comprehension of
Are
it.
there
They're going to be
Imperial-
terrified no matter what. Having a skull mask and be like, look how terrifying I am in 40K
Are
is
there
retarded.
Imperial Guardsmen?
It's retarded.
Aren't Reavers like smaller than Space Marines?
No, they're full on.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Their armor is smaller. That's how they
Would-
look.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there's guardsmen that sometimes get scared of the horrors that they see out there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good thing they're fighting beside the guys that are
Could you conceivably? Could you?
So if anything, they're terrifying the guys that they're supposed to be helping.
So you think that Tau feel no fear?
No, I'm just saying that
You think that a Dire Avenger feels no fear?
No. Here's the thing. So on the scale of terrifying things in the galaxy, they're not terrifying.
So you say that. The book I'm reading right now, it describes an encounter with Space Marines, and he the Exarch that is,
and they say they're terrifying to behold. They're not wearing a fucking skull helmet.
So
they already are fucking terrifying.
Terror can increase,
You either shit in your pants or you're not.
or you're shitting so much
you
that
either
you're.
fled or you didn't. You're either firing or you're not.
But that's it's
Like-
a falsehood. You're
No, man.
Yes.
To have a skull helmet and be like, look how we are known for being terrifying because we have a skull. It's silly. In 40K, it's silly. There are so many terrifying things. There's fucking fungus that can grow up to be 20 feet tall. They run around yelling
Obscenities.
obscenities at you. Like
it.
like you're hitting people with chain weapons.
A regular guy.
Yeah, it's just not a terrifying thing. Like
But it is though.
it shouldn't be, and it isn't in the grand scheme.
I'm going to
of
use this as a segue into
Yeah.
the topic of transhuman dread and Space Marines because it seems appropriate for the topic that we're talking about. Just to stop this whole argument.
Well, we're not done with
arguing.
we're not done with the forces of of a Primaris
Okay,
chapter.
so
So,
we'll
Write
put
it
a pin-
down.
We'll put a pin in it.
Yeah.
we do have a.
Back to the argument.
It's more. We're gonna go over like the vehicles aspect support of that. So
Full disclosure, Eric.
yeah.
I would be terrified if I seen one of
And
them.
but
it
I
would
think I
be-
would be more terrified if I saw the Reaver, but not because I have a logical understanding of what a Reaver is, and I'm like, well, actually, I'd be way more scared of an aggressor, but that's just me.
Right, like-
Because it's bigger,
right?
heavier,
But
and
the
shoots
Reaver,
more at you.
it's a
Right?
shock value, is what it's supposed to
But
be.
they're
No.
stealthily.
Okay, I think there's a
I brought this up again.
misunderstanding.
I tried to agree.
I think the implication is more what they do on the battlefield. Like when you're on guard duty and your buddy just disappears and then you find him strung up by his intestines in the ceiling.
So you don't even see the skull
Right.
helmet.
Okay. I'm not talking about the skull helmet specifically. I'm just saying their role.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on like 99% of these points. Like I don't like the skull helmets. I think it takes away from the chaplains. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Go listen to the whole episode on that. That being said, I think the way you're describing, like I'm scared of the guy that's like towering over me and firing like all these crazy weapons.
Yeah.
The idea is that they inspire fear in like the guy that's quietly on guard duty in the middle of the night, who's best friend.
It
who just got
becomes
his
like a
face ripped off.
nightmare.
Exactly. That's kind of the role that they are supposed to play. Just
Sure.
just to put a little more reason
Sure.
into your anger.
Sure.
Okay, that's all.
Sure,
I'm the Mark Whisperer.
sure.
Sleep now.
Calm, happy place, happy place. Okay, let's talk about Redemptor Dreadnoughts.
So we kind of actually went on that huge dreadnought rant, so we can kind of skip over it.
We're just going to talk about what they wear. On their right,
Redemptor dreadnought armor.
yes, obviously.
They wear their body.
On their right arm, they will use an Onslaught heavy Gatling cannon or a macro plasma incinerator. So those are really big guns.
They also have Onslaught Gatling cannons, not to be confused with Onslaught heavy Gatling
Yes.
cannons, also not to be confused with heavy bolt pistols or bolt
no,
pistols.
neither of those are.
Or just regular assault
on the right
cannons.
arm is
Yes.
like where like the really big weapon would go, and on the left arm they've got like that crushing claw, and so then underneath it you either have your Onslaught Gatling cannon or your heavy flamer.
Mm-hmm.
And then another cool thing that I like about these actually is their chest-mounted like grenade launchers. I actually think
Or in
that's
the words of Nathan, nipple guns.
nipple guns. Yeah. But I actually think those look really cool.
Yeah,
and,
they do.
and they like on the model itself, they look like they belong there. Well, so
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah. They can have a bunch of different weapons too. Like I'm sure they're just going to come out with more and more as the range is
Yeah,
expanded.
obviously, yeah. All right, next we're going to talk about our repulsors, which is this is their transport.
Yeah, they're troop transport.
Yes.
So fun fact,
Yeah.
Primaris Marines can't fit in rhinos. Sure.
Too big.
They can't fit in land raiders.
Too big.
You know what can fit in land raiders?
What's that?
Custodes.
Oh, you broke the game, Mark.
So think about that when you go to bed tonight. Not to be confused with heavy bolters.
I actually don't think I'll think about any of this as I go to bed tonight. So just maybe that's what you do all the time.
Almost always.
He prays for fever dreams. So Repulsor they actually have a decent amount of weaponry. They've got a las talon, which really just looks like a las cannon with a tracer on it, or like a scope. It really looks like a scope that you can stare at.
It's like they're just trying to come up with names. Like they could have just put a las cannon on it and it'd be fine.
There's a pintle-mounted onslaught Gatling cannon.
Not to be confused with the heavy onslaught. No, onslaught heavy Gatling cannon. Sorry.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
It has access to extensive bolt weaponry, so
that is to be confused
with all the bolt stuff. Also has auto launchers, frag storm grenade launchers, crack storm grenade launchers, and heavy stubbers. So actually pretty heavy kitted out for a transport.
Yeah.
Like what did a Rhino used to have?
A storm bolter and maybe a hunter killer missile.
Yeah, maybe a hunter.
If you had some points that you just said, I can't buy a space marine, I'll buy a hunter killer missile. You know, like
jeez, yeah, this one's way heavy.
Yeah. But to me, the biggest, uniquest function is they brought back grav technology.
Okay.
So it's a grav tank, where normally most Imperial tanks are
tracks.
So
what's different about the grav versus track? Obviously, I understand like the conventional it floats, right? But does that change it in tabletop? Like does it ignore stuff?
It most likely will have the fly special rule.
Oh, interesting.
Or like ignore it.
No, it can't have the fly special rule because that means only units that fly can assault it.
So devil fishes from Tau,
they
have the fly special rule.
But those actually look like flyers.
No, they don't.
No?
I agree with Eric. I do.
Okay, sure.
I can picture a devilfish flying.
I can picture a devilfish flying, but I can't picture a repulsor flying.
If that's the case, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So if that had the fly rule, that would be crazy to me.
I would put money on it that it does.
You know what? There have been a lot of rules recently that give bonuses to targeting things with the fly rule.
Sure.
Like, especially when I'm looking in, like, all the indexes, it's a lot like, hey, if it targets unit with fly, it's a +1 to hit. But anything else to hit, it's -1 to hit. So you almost have to fire it at fly units.
Yeah.
So, could be interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's a grav tank, which is unique.
Yeah.
Because it's new.
Yeah. Next, we have the Astartes Super Heavy Tank.
So once again, they bring in grav technology, but now they have a bigger version of it.
Yeah.
The difference...
The thing here being it cannot fit any Marines inside of it.
Now, here's the fun part where 40k gets funny.
Yeah. Well, hold on, Mark. 40k is not funny.
But this is where it gets funny.
Oh.
So it's probably 2 times, maybe 2.5 times the size of the repulsor.
Yeah.
Yet it has less guns.
Yeah.
And it can't carry anyone inside of it.
That's just a easy space-time continuum problem. I don't understand. It's just there's a hole in reality that surrounds the Astartes.
The warp. So the warp infiltrated Call's laboratory.
Ugh. Wait, what?
So when Call was building the Astartes,
He wasn't wielding anything.
no, the warp infiltrated
Okay.
With skull masks.
with a skull mask and terrified him into.
So then he's like, it was his own fever dream, and then he created the Reavers.
Yeah, but it's basically like a heavy support tank. It has like a huge cannon on the top called
A
macro.
accelerator cannon.
And how does that work, Eric? Master of physics.
Well, macro really just means huge, as opposed to micro, which means small. Christian.
I've heard one of those terms before. Micro. I've never heard the large one before.
Yeah, macro.
Never.
Macro.
Never been.
Do you want a quick
referred to it as
explanation of
that.
how macro cannons work in like battle barges?
Sure.
Okay, it's manned by either 4 or 5 crews. I'm gonna know exactly once I run through it. So it takes and
He's like an idiot savant.
these crews
Something get rambling. I'll find the point.
these crews are at least 100 individuals each. So crew number 1 opens the door to the cannon, holds it open. Crew number 2 goes inside, cleans the cannon. Crew number 3 loads the cannon. Crew number 1 closes the door. Crew number 5 crews altogether then. Crew number 5
4.
crew number 5 fires the cannon.
100 people to press one button.
It's a big button.
Honestly, like that's what it takes. And there's even like a really rough picture of it. But like,
Eric, how do they load it?
Can you imagine how, like, on pulleys, like they lift these shells into the air?
Hundreds of people.
Hundreds.
100
each in the crew, but it is insane to see these things fly. It takes like so long for each cannon to like fire, unload the shell, clean the inside, load the other shell, fire it, right? Like, it's crazy. But
Probably have a 6th crew too, just saying rights the entire time.
Say prayers.
yeah, probably like techno priests everywhere. Yeah. No,
Techno priests.
is that not what they're?
Tech priests.
Techno priest.
What am I thinking of?
Techno
Oh, yeah.
music.
Priests of techno.
There you go.
They come to bring you great raves. Okay, so it has the Astartes super heavy tank has a pair of a macro accelerator cannon, las rippers, plasma eradicators, turret mounted heavy stubbers, twin linked heavy bolters, or las cannons. This is where it gets really unique for the Astartes in the void shields.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to see that in any other.
And that, I would
Imperial.
imagine, is what takes up the majority
The
of
generators
space.
for those.
Yeah.
Would be,
A void shield is just an energy shield, essentially.
but it's normally what you
linked.
see on a Titan.
Yeah.
Right? So to see it in this unit is crazy.
Is it? Am I wrong on this? But our void shields also have something to do with warp technology.
Yes, that's how they survive the void.
No, false. He's smiling. For anyone who now he's touching people, he's smiling and he's touching. He even said he's safe. He's smiling.
No. Did you guys see that one? So, okay, obviously you did. But when he talks about that joke, there's that girl in the front of the audience, and she is like, she's like, don't like that. She just instantly is so unimpressed with what he's talking about. Oh my gosh. I don't want to be that superhero. Please, miss. Please. There's a building on fire. Just let me touch her vagina. Please. He just gives him just a little pat. Just a little pat.
That's basically Eric's superpower.
He touches and he smiles.
Oh, fuck.
Mark, void shields, starships. How does that work?
Oh, like it's not warp based.
What, the void shields?
Yeah.
No, it's just energy. They're Geller
Yeah.
fields.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And then we did the whole touch. Sorry,
And
I'll
here
caught
we
back
are.
up.
It took him a second. No, ships use Geller fields, and those are reality bubbles. It's different than a void shield.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that was Christian's question. Christian asked that. Christian was being dumb.
No.
Yes, you
think-
did.
misunderstood
I
the
don't think
question.
Christian would ever make that mistake.
He said, is void shields the same thing they use in the space for warp travel? And the answer
That's
is
not,
no.
That's not what I said.
What did you say?
I said, are they related to the warp at all?
No.
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 Okay. That's all. That's all.
Fucking
That's simple.
inbred.
Yeah. Jeez, you even know what the hell you're talking about? Someone get rid of this guy. Security.
So the final thing we got in the Space Marine Primaris Armory is the Overlord.
Oh, hold on, guys.
What's that?
Void shields use Imperial warp-based technology to displace ranged attacks
That's
by
that
subtly
one guy on Lexicanum, though. He's constantly
Yeah,
giving false
that one
information.
guy on Lexicanum who just writes, and he went on Lexicanum, and he went on Wikia.
Yeah,
he's
he
the
wrote-
same guy who put spaces between town names.
Yeah, that idiot.
Yeah, that idiot.
That idiot savant.
He has no idea what he's doing.
that idiot is right. So,
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
okay, fun fact.
Good to know.
We'll talk more about it on our Void Shield episode.
Yeah. So yeah, Overlord. We don't know what it looks like, but it's a huge airship.
You can only imagine it looks like a Thunderhawk, but bigger.
Yeah. And it has grav technology.
I was thinking more like a blimp.
A blimp.
But
They've gone through some serious regression.
it has, as written down here, anti-munitions
No, for
cannon.
real. I reread the notes.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what the
Huh.
hell is anti-munitions? Like, that's a typo, 100%.
No, okay, no, it makes
No,
sense.
it's-
Yeah, so aircrafts are behind you. You shoot out anti.
Yeah, they're like flares.
Yeah.
They distract like,
But it's a cannon.
or like chaff.
It's a cannon.
It's like chaff. a chaff
It's,
cannon.
it's worded weird as all Primaris wargear is, but
Because when I saw
Heavy
that, I was like, that
pistols.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
But the couple of the cool things it has, though, is a wing-mounted Desolator las cannon.
not to be confused with
Las Talon.
or las rippers,
Yeah, right.
or
of
las
course.
cannons,
Yeah,
Or
or
las
las guns.
or las guns,
Las rifles.
Las pistols,
Las rails.
flint,
Las
las
rails?
rifles.
Lazarus.
not to be confused with Lazarus.
It has a nose-mounted melta-cannon.
I love it. A weapon I can wrap my brain around.
Do you think that if it's flying fast enough and like, it shoots the heat ray and then it flies
Into its own-
the heat ray?
Right? Because heat's not very fast.
No, it's just the speed of light.
And like it keeps the air warm. Is it?
Well, I don't know. It depends on the wave. It depends on the wave it's using, right?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think it's a light wave that
Yeah.
it's using. It's probably just like a microwave,
Yeah.
which isn't as fast as. I mean, it's the 41st millennium. They're
It can go
quick.
as fast as it wants. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Something else they have is an underwing mounted heavy bolter.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah. Okay. Whatever. I've ranted enough about wargear.
Yeah,
Naming
that's really everything that we have for Primaris and like how
As
they
of right now, yeah.
how they function as a chapter and how they function as units and individuals and what their support would be. So
Yeah.
that's
Cool.
that's pretty much it. So next, let's talk about the big questions. The really big, the really girthy, meaty question
Thick.
of the day.
Veiny.
Something
Macro.
What? Okay, so you guys just aren't being subtle at all.
You don't have veiny questions? I have veiny questions.
The only
They're very
veiny question
vascular.
I have is why is it that veiny?
Vascular questions, that's all.
Okay, topic number 1: Space Marine penis.
And reproduction. We're toss at it.
Oh, I
but
thought we were
mostly
just-
just penis.
right. Okay,
Like it's
Space Marine
crazy.
penis for
It's-
real.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy how often
People say that they're castrated or eunuchs.
and it's
I
just
see
like
that a lot.
There
and
is no evidence anywhere.
that has
in fact,
ever
there's even a
implied-
space marine. We were talking about him earlier. Who has sex with like a bunch of
So okay, hold
Phoenician
on.
women.
We'll get to that in a second.
Fenrisian?
Do you think there's like rampant gay relationships with Space Marines?
No.
So okay, sexuality.
You would think so.
Okay, hold on.
The,
We'll get into all
Okay.
of it now.
All,
First
all
things
that
first.
testosterone and like no women around.
Hold on. So, Space Marines are sexually repressed for starters.
Yeah, like
even
psycho condition.
yeah,
to
psycho
not
conditioning
want
and the chemical cocktails that they're injected with, like
So could it be more like chemical castration?
it, theoretically yes. Nothing is written to imply it.
but if it is a distraction to their ability to
combat.
fight,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you could say it's
So,
like
yeah,
they
that-
get
And
they
let's-
get rid of a Space Marine's fear.
Yeah.
If they're getting rid of a Space Marine's fear, they're getting rid of their want for the titty.
Yeah,
Or
right?
the PP.
we all get a boner from murder. you
Yeah.
know?
Right, exactly.
So-
the only boner I want is blood.
Yeah.
That's the only kind of boner I want.
Theoretically, the only boner you can get. But anyways,
Not me.
mine runs on imagination.
And personality.
and charm.
Yeah. So yeah, effectively they're asexual Space Marines. So that doesn't mean do they keep the bits. So one, it's never written anywhere that they remove any bits.
Yeah.
So
And we
let's-
do have a very detailed creation process.
Yeah. So let's talk about testicles for a second.
Yes.
Let's talk the
Let's.
testes. So they are in the human body a source of production of testosterone. So the purpose of removing those, I mean, sure, you're getting injected with a bunch of chemical cocktails, whatever. Why would you also remove it as well? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The other thing I would say is with the penis is that it does have a secondary function, which I don't know why people forget this all the time, me being, a male and everything.
Yeah. And that's
is-
being able to have sword fights.
with your battle
I was
brothers.
thinking elephant swings. Helicopter it.
So the penis has multiple
It's a
functions.
multifaceted
It's just
organ.
therapeutic.
But yeah, like they
But
don't
you
cut
use it to
off.
pee.
Like, yeah,
you use
like-
it to pee. Like, why would
You don't necessarily need a penis though.
You don't need
Right,
it,
no,
but
but
why
why
would
you
you
don't take it off?
remove
necessarily
it?
need many things. Like they don't talk about how they remove appendixes.
Yeah, they're not removing nipples.
They're not removing. They're not
That is
removing tonsils.
an important part of the Space Marine process. Is
I agree with you. The evidence that
Yeah,
they
the evidence
do,
is lacking, and the
Yeah.
practicality of
Yeah.
doing such things is just why would you do
Yeah,
that?
and it's just so annoying that people like bring
They,
it up.
yeah, and
in
they just
forums.
they
It's
like they
a
say it as
regular
if it's
thing.
fact for some
Yeah.
reason. And I just don't know.
Now, to do like even if you were to try and create like a chapter fluff of your own and
Yeah.
say like they're all eunuchs, you can just do what Jordan said and chemically castrate them to act as if they had zero testosterone.
Sure, you
Sure,
could.
like why not?
Like
But
yeah, that's what I'm
it's also
saying.
why
You
would
don't even need. Well, I mean, to change the demeanor of your chapter just
Sure.
for like a fluff.
Yeah,
Right,
whatever.
like you could. Even
I'm just
have
saying
this-
it's not the standard.
There's
Yeah.
no real reason to ever be like, no, they don't have a penis.
Yeah.
Exactly. That
So okay,
That's all.
now
If you can think of a reason,
here's
why-
a couple of things that might be in favor of them having sexual organs. Is there was old lore. I don't know if it counts anymore. This is way back in the day, and I think it's about who's that space wolf? Ragnar. I believe it's Ragnar himself who has like drunken orgies with Phoenician women.
yeah.
Fenrisian.
Fenrisian, sorry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, theoretically, even the mechanics of it, a space marine is so strong, like they would destroy you. they would kill you.
Someone would want that.
Right. So,
That's the only way they get off.
right. So I'm just saying, like practically, I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Is it in its old lore? So could it work? Maybe it's not the norm. 99% of space marines are asexual. You do have ones that sure could break that psycho conditioning. It has happened with other things like space marines.
Space Marines have fallen to chaos. Like,
Exactly. So it isn't crazy to say they couldn't reawaken sexual urges. It's implied in one of the Horus Heresy books that Argol Tal, a word bearer, he at least views women, a particular woman, differently, who has a lot of interaction with them, which you get kind of like a relationship vibe.
I
don't know
thought it
if
was
I'm
more of like,
reading into it, but
Yeah, I think you are. I remember that character too, and I remember it more of almost like a mentorship or like a compassion.
yeah,
almost
it could be,
as
and that
opposed
could
to,
be like
a
that's the weird
romantic-
thing is like he doesn't understand romantic relationships at
Yeah.
all. It doesn't even compute with him, right? So I could have misconstrued that a little bit, but yeah, overall they don't even register sexuality.
Okay, so yeah,
The other thing is Slanesh.
I-
They
yeah.
in the Siege of Terra, it was written again a little bit
Yeah.
older lore that the Emperor's children raped the populations.
Well,
of
they
Terra.
constantly are having like their crazy orgies
yeah.
and stuff.
However,
they
like
have
Slanesh
penises.
isn't exclusive to sex. It
No.
does imply like
Excess.
excess of every kind, right?
Believe me, I know as a Scion of Slanesh, I know.
You know.
But-
So I'm not saying it's a 100% guarantee thing that everything they do is like sexually depraved. It could be like music. It could be like drugs.
Yeah.
It could be all sorts of things, right? Even the thrill of combat, right?
The big thing is on this topic, like nowhere does it say that they
Do not have
remove
penises.
Penises, and there's a lot of evidence showing that they would, but at the same time, not all of them have that sexual desire. Very few would.
Yeah,
Like,
so few as to be
just-
like, it's a huge outlier.
Yeah,
to the point like
exactly.
I would just argue that it's pretty well non-existent.
Exactly. That's really
Yeah.
all.
The only time I'm ever going to entertain someone saying that they do cut it off is when you quote me something from Wiki or Lexicanum saying they cut their balls off. So
Yeah.
anything else, I'm just going to be like, no, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's not worth their time. All right. Now that the most important question is
Out of the way?
Yeah.
let's talk about other ones. So Mark posted on Facebook earlier about some questions that someone, and if anyone had about Space Marines, what would it be? So one of the questions was, if you could add something to a Space Marine, like an organ or whatever, what would it be, and then what would its function do?
You know, I'll start unless somebody else cuts
Yeah,
one.
go for it.
I would call it the stealth node.
Okay.
And basically it's like chameleon skin. Like they find a way to like make chameleon skin.
like active
active
camouflage.
And yes, I know they wear power armor and stuff, but like it still is a feature that could be useful, especially in their scout squads.
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of things that like
Like-
only when their power armor fails does this thing work. Like
Yeah.
and like their power armor is sealed.
Yeah.
Like why would they ever need to survive in the vacuum of space?
Yeah.
Right. So
But-
that organ is useless until the power armor fails. Well,
Yeah.
let's say they take out the power armor. This active camo would be pretty cool.
Yeah, like
Do you think it would be like a psychic thing or
you would
implanting
have to.
cameras all over their body to like recreate the image behind them? Ooh.
Yeah, I don't
Or
know
octopus
the
skin. They just
Octopus
stitch
skin,
it onto
okay.
their flesh.
Yeah, exactly. Sure, like there's a number of ways. Like
Okay.
it is a real life thing that creatures can do. But
And even they're working on
yeah, like
science.
yeah. So that's really all I could think of because like they already have so much, and yeah, that's one thing that could be very useful.
All right, Christian.
I would give them a rational node, and it's implanted in their brain to make them less like into last stands and suicidal behavior.
So instead of implanted, it just like they lobotomize.
the hyper aggressive.
No, you want that. The parts.
The suicidal part.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
It's,
I can't think
it's
of
more
any.
like
Yeah, like
instilling a
honest.
willingness like to live.
Yeah.
No,
like
I
I
was-
literally
I was
thought
totally
for like
joking.
7
Yeah,
hours on
no.
like what would I add, and like the chameleon skin was the best.
You
I
know,
could come
okay,
up with,
the
and-
one I would add, but it already exists as a mutation,
So,
is something like Wolverine claws.
Oh, okay,
or
sure.
like something like that, like a
like a
protruding-
weapon you have.
Yeah,
Sure.
Like, when you're
ingrained
outside
in
of
your skin.
everything.
Yeah, but again, like its effectiveness would be minimal because 99% of the time you're going to be wearing power armor.
Exactly,
So like,
like-
why? But
Yeah.
there is a chapter who does have a they grow bone spurs out of their elbows and knees and stuff.
Yeah,
with it.
black
Okay.
dragons.
Black dragon. So it already exists as a potential genetic flaw.
Yeah, they
But-
have horns too. Some of them.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. But I would do that
Interesting.
intentionally as my thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Like, so I know that pariah isn't really a thing anymore, but if they were able to create like a psychic block, that would be the organ I would implant in
Damn,
someone.
I wish I thought of that one.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Right? And maybe they can't make it as like potent as an actual pariah where it like
Yeah.
creates a bubble, but even if it just like,
Like-
reduced the effect of psychic ability on you,
Okay.
like or warp effects on yourself.
Yeah,
I see
that's
what
a
you're
good-
saying.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what they do is they grab pariahs and they stuff them in their backpacks and they carry with them everywhere.
Yeah. No, that is interesting. That one definitely is pretty far fetched. If they had the ability to make it,
Obviously,
it's a
yeah.
very cool idea. I like it.
Yeah.
Because it was tough to think of something like
Yeah.
what would you like?
What do they need?
Yeah,
Do we know that guy's name?
I don't know. We could find it on
He
Facebook.
he must have an idea. You're obviously listening if you're messaging weirdos on Facebook.
Yeah.
So sorry, I forgot your
Leave
name.
us alone.
Sorry, I forgot your name. But message us what you think. You would add because clearly you must have something. if you
Yeah,
brought
you've
it up.
got to have something in your back pocket, and you just want to see
gonna
if
blow
more-
our mind.
Or he's not
exactly.
creative at all.
He's like, I'm looking for ideas. Please send
one of the two.
fire breath.
I thought of that too, but then like
They already have the Betcher's gland.
yeah, like it just yeah.
It just seemed like a redundancy.
Laser
Yeah.
eyes.
I
Frost
thought
breath?
of that.
I also
too.
thought of that because I was thinking of superpowers.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
But it's already like
They can control the weather.
yeah,
yeah, for a lot of the things I thought of, it went too far.
yeah.
Right? Like there was no good ground of where it was like, oh, it affected you individually.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jordan,
It was a good question.
Jordan, do you have one?
Not like I'm trying to think like what kind of enhancements they could use that they don't already have as
Yeah.
a space marine. So I think
Like
it's
we
kinda-
had all day to think about this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was all I came up with.
like I don't even know like is their vision already enhanced?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
They can
like-
see in like different spectrums and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
And
Yeah.
zoom in and
And
Well,
then
I'm
you
sure
put,
and
they're-
their
they're-
ears are like amazing.
I'm
and
sure
then you
their
put a helmet
visors,
on
yeah,
them too,
would
and then they
be-
have the whole HUD.
Yeah. So there'd be no point in having like that kind of genetic enhancement. I
They,
don't know.
they can taste the air and track
Yeah.
it, right? Like
Yeah,
give them
I think like something with a psychic ability would probably
Yeah.
be like
Yeah,
the only thing that would make sense to me.
yeah. An area they're lacking for sure.
Yeah.
give them a cure to male pattern baldness.
They all
There are
seem to
too
suffer.
many.
But that's not
Many
that's,
space
that's not
marines.
an organ. The question
No,
is
I
an
know.
organ.
You implant hair plugs.
The most dangerous thing.
human growth hormone.
You guys ever watch the Arrested Development where
Yeah. Oh,
what's his
name?
character?
Tobias?
Tobias, yeah, he gets hair plugs and like eventually like the hair plugs start like eating him. Like he's dying from them. It's like they're taking over his body, but his
Oh my
hair's
gosh.
so like luscious.
Luxurious.
Yeah, it's good.
That's
Classic.
a Tobias move.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if it's the same guy or whatever, but question was, are there any chapters with like unique recruitment habits?
All of them. They're all unique.
Yeah, each
But
one.
if there's one that really stands out in your mind, there's like a trial or a ritual that they have to go through.
Like Ultramarines,
Okay.
they have like an academy that like they send like recruits to.
Like hopefuls?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Okay.
it would be like very much like military school or boarding school or whatever for their recruits, because they're way more like civilized.
Yeah, so obviously then the mortality rate isn't nearly as high.
No,
I think
but
it would be that
that's
in addition.
That's like pre-screening to become the Space Marine?
yeah.
Yeah. So like I think that the mortality stuff comes after.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Hey, you
But,
graduated.
but it's not
Yeah,
like
you
the
can-
Blood Bowl that you were talking about
No.
earlier,
Yeah,
right?
they do have a
Where-
gladiatorial system as well, but I don't know if that happens before or after.
Yeah, but that's kind of neat. It just shows that like some Space Marines have like the Ultramarines have 500 worlds, and like they're pretty civilized. It's a pretty good place to live, actually.
Yeah, and they also want to recruit like intelligent people, not
Yeah.
just like brutal savages.
Yeah. So that's a pretty unique one because it goes against what we were talking about, where it's like feral worlders like fighting in a circle with a rusty knife.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. One that comes to mind are the salamanders, and it's just a unique tradition to them is that they have to go out and kill a drake,
And by Drake, it's like
a
dragon,
big ass
like-
dragon
Yeah.
lizard that breathes fire and is hyper lethal.
And doesn't it live in lava?
Yeah, and keep in mind this is like a 10-year-old boy, so
Yeah.
yeah. So every chapter has its own unique thing. I don't know if this is actually written, but for Blood Angels, just because of the nature of their homeworld, it's very like radioactive, and the population is very sickly.
Yeah.
A lot of them are described as being like physically inferior specimens, like thin.
Like a lot of mutants too.
Yeah, lots of mutants, lots of thin, sickly people. They still undergo like hyperlethal trials and things. They have to like track through a desert and like kill, I think it's some kind of rad scorpion or something. But what happens when they go through their process? They have a lot of blood drinking ceremonies, and a lot of their successors do this as well.
Space vampires.
Well, yeah, essentially. And through that, and through the induction of the gene seed, it actually like transforms them physically. So it's more of a redemptive process in their case, whereas like you're usually recruiting the best of the best on most planets. On their planet, they might not be the best physical specimen, but it's the gene seed like enhances them to redeem them, almost like Captain America, right? Like weak kind of guy becomes super guy.
Do you want to kill some Nazis?
Yeah. So just like every chapter is pretty unique. It's really
Yeah.
hard to pin one down and be like, no, these guys
This is the
are
most unique.
so different.
Oh, just
Yeah.
anything that comes to your mind.
Yeah,
Really.
so those ones just sprung to my mind just
Yeah.
off the bat. But I mean, there's so many. There are 1,000 chapters or more now.
Right.
so.
Yeah. All with their own fortress monasteries. All with their own places that they pull
Fleets
things
and-
from.
Yeah,
so.
fleets and
Yeah.
worlds. Some might be noblemen. Some might be savages. Some
Yeah.
might be
All right. Let's talk about Space Marine beliefs and their doctrine.
Yeah. This one's a very interesting one because when you first think of it and when you first read about it, you think Space Marines are like super religious. It always talks about them praying to the Emperor and stuff. But a lot of them don't actually hold the Emperor as like a divine god being.
Yeah.
Like they can recognize that the Emperor actually does have like power and like psychic power.
Yeah. And might even be listening to their prayers.
Yeah, exactly. So while they are praying, they're not praying to like that divine being. They're praying to somebody who actually could potentially help them.
Right. The faith, as it were, is
Yeah.
much more routed in reality. And
Yeah.
It's more tangible.
it's
It's like
more
faith
of
in
a-
your weapons, faith in your brothers,
Right.
faith in what you can see.
Yeah.
less of a divine deity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, there are chapters like the Black Templar who hold like the Emperor as a god and like as like they're very super religious.
Right. They have the Black Templar have something called the Emperor's Tarot. So they
Yeah.
try and gain like an understanding of what the battle will be like. So they're divining the future using this tarot of his.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing that they believe in is the Emperor's Champion. So they believe that on the eve of every battle, which is a little unconceivable, but they think that the Emperor personally like visits someone and chooses them as like a champion. So
Yeah.
that is a much more divine
Typical religious.
power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of a practice than,
Yeah.
than the regular Marine might go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a part that got cut from our episode, but like the way I like to describe it is that they're like secularly religious, right?
Yeah.
They're just as fanatical about like their beliefs and their political beliefs that they appear to be religious and they use religious language, even though they're not.
Yeah.
So, like, a good example is, like, North Korea. Again, I don't know if this got cut or not, but, like, when they're so into the regime, they, use their language that pretty much ascribes it to be religious, right?
Yeah.
Like a religious fanaticism.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just one of those things where typically when you first look at it, you think that it is like that actual belief, but it is more of a practical.
Yeah, and this actually like diverges greatly from the rest of the Imperium, which does generally hold the imperial religion, the imperial cult, which is acknowledging the emperor as a god.
Yeah. Another thing that gets them into trouble on the topic of like the imperial creed and stuff is a lot of these chapters, they have their own like inbuilt belief system, like
like their chapter cult.
Yeah, exactly. Like that the imperial creed would find abhorrent. Like like we were saying, the Blood Angels, they have a lot of flesh eating and blood drinking practices that to like a common citizen is like, holy fuck, like what did I do? And like
it seems very savage.
Yeah.
Some of that comes from the chapter, some of it might come from the recruiting world. They might adopt the practices from that planet that they recruit from.
Yeah, some of these traditions extend all the way back to when their Primarch was like raised on whatever planet he was raised on, and they carry it on throughout the generations. And so often inside each chapter they have their own chapter cult, which some will honor strength and some will honor marksmanship. They have like different things that they themselves will put above other things.
But a good portion of the time they are ritualistic, right?
Yes.
There are rituals involved, and it is very much culty.
Yeah, like the Salamanders, part of their big thing is to
Promethean cult.
Yeah, and they like prize who can make like cool wargear, and also they brand themselves too.
With kind of like self-mutilation, or
no, not really. More like I would say more like tribal tattoos. Think of it's not like self-mutilation. It's more like
well, the Iron Hands though. Alternatively, they will self-mutilate.
Yeah, and that's part of their like cultic belief, right?
Because their whole thing
the weakness
is,
of flesh.
Yeah,
right. So they replace body parts and limbs with mechanical ones to improve themselves and to rid themselves of the weakness of the flesh, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it can vary from chapter to chapter, and
you got to think that the Ultramarine chapter cult is not anything too crazy.
No.
Right? Like Reboot would probably stamp that out real quick.
Yeah. This is one of the things that I really like about 40K is that pretty much anything that you can think of can happen in 40K. There are very few hard and fast rules. Like the galaxy is such a big place. You can kind of, if you want your Space Marines to be castrated, go for it. It's not the end of the world. If you want them to sacrifice virgins, go for it. If that's part of your chapter called, go for it.
If you want the Mars to make better Space Marines, go for it.
Apparently.
It's all just one bad fan fiction.
Yeah, honestly. But that's one of the things that I really draws me into it. Like it just gives you the creativity to come up with you can read all the other stuff and be like, this would fit into the setting, but it gives you that permission. Where if you play like StarCraft, I like StarCraft, I'm not harping on it. Yeah. I'm just saying the Terran Marines are the Terran Marines. You can't make your own Terran Marines.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of touching on the spiritual aspect then, just for the chaplains.
Yes.
Yeah, so to a common person or lay person getting into 40K,
a lay person, the peasants.
the peasants getting into this refined game. Like a chaplain, their role in the chapter is to maintain that spiritual component of the chapter, whatever cult that they ascribe to or lack of a cult. They also are in charge of the traditions of the chapter and the psychological well-being of the chapter. So it doesn't necessarily have to be religious, but they're checking the Battle Brothers to see are they suffering, mentally from their encounters? Are they treading the line of heresy?
Are any of them feeling like a taint of chaos on their soul?
Yeah. Which is a real concern for, when you're actually fighting demons, this actually becomes a problem. Right?
And even more of a physical thing that they can do is when we were doing those minor Xenos races, there's a couple races that would implant themselves into creatures and then become that creature.
Yeah.
Or they would be shape-shifting creatures, right?
Yeah, so it's a chaplain's job to root those out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also touching on the Space Marine's lack of religiosity, a lot of it comes down from their, it's a word.
Religiosity?
Yeah, look it up.
Yeah, religiosity. It's a word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you're uneducated.
I just would have said religiousness.
Not a word.
Well, I don't know if religiousness is
That's not even a word?
I don't know.
My life is a lie.
Anyways, yeah, a lot of it coming from the Space Marines, like they see themselves as descended directly from the Emperor. They see themselves as the sons of their Primarchs, and their Primarchs see themselves as sons of the Emperor, right?
Yeah.
So
They're
it's
grandsons.
it's more of a familial line, and they see each other as cousins.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very real and practical to them rather than this like religious figure
Yeah.
out on a throne somewhere. They
Yeah.
have a more personal relationship.
In a way, though, and not to get to Carl Jung, that is very like archetypal. Like even ancient like god myths or like Greek myths and stuff. It's like it's all a family line, right?
Yeah, like a lot of
And-
ancestor worship.
Right,
or
and
tracing
a
your
lot
origins.
of like anthropologists have they kind of they pontificate that many of these gods were actually real people at one point, and then they just became like
Legends.
yeah, they
Yeah.
became legends, and then they turned into this god.
Yeah, and you even have people groups that like trace their roots back to this god.
Right,
like,
right.
You know,
So I'm just like observing. It is kind of mythological in its function. Like it still sort of fits that.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Though it is like real. There's something real about mythology too,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it-
Well,
True.
and
Yeah.
especially since like 10,000 years have passed.
yeah,
yeah, that's
like,
a long time to like look into the past, right? And
Yeah.
to trace your lineage that far.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the point is like it's more practical to them than
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, I know.
mythological.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's just because the language that they use isn't so archaic, like you know, a non-technologically advanced civilization.
Yeah, like they
Right.
speak in almost medieval verse rather than like modern terms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like holy relics and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So next question is, can Astartes retire?
No.
No.
Only in death
Yeah.
does duty end.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. So what happens if a Marine gets crippled but cannot be battlefield ready and is not crippled to the point of death,
And there's no dreadnought.
and you can't go into a dreadnought? But
So
you're
we're
not
talking
dying.
about very specific circumstances that are
Very
very
specific,
rare.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they do happen, and I can even
Sure, like
name-
what would be the role that they
yeah,
would take?
and I
then?
can even name a couple characters. who
Yeah,
this
and it has
happened
happened. I'm
to.
just saying it's super rare.
Super rare for
Yeah.
sure. What happens to him then?
I believe there's a story, and I don't remember his name. And
I think
again,
it starts with like an M.
is it the Ultramarines too that you're thinking of?
Oh no, I'm thinking of the. I guess it'd be Sons of Horus.
Yeah.
Oh,
way back during
Malachus.
Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
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 He
Okay.
was an advisor.
Yeah.
Like a consular.
So yeah, on the one hand, Space Marines have a vast array of knowledge and experience built up over hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
So if their mind is still intact, a lot of them will take on advisory positions. They could advise planetary governors.
Maybe
could-
they would be in charge of the fleet.
Yeah, I was going to say that next. Yeah, they can be fleet captains because they don't have to physically be on the ground, but they can still use their battlefield experience.
Yeah.
I know.
Actually, that would be a good use for all their vehicle crew. Like.
Yeah, just wire them into Land Raider and like drive this.
Yeah. Well, maybe not even necessarily wire them in, but I
Right.
know what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing, and again, there was and this is Ultramarine specific because the Ultramarines rule a sector of the galaxy.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he did get retired because of his battlefield injuries, and he became a governor of a planet.
Interesting.
That's not really retiring, though.
It's retiring from combat.
He's
He
still-
took on a non-combat role. He still serves the Imperium, you could argue.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And like,
But it's very different.
and even though like a crippled Space
definitely.
Marine is still going to be like a physically imposing presence, they're still massive.
Yeah.
You know, like as long as he's not missing his fingers, you could still crush your skull with his hand, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, his point is that yeah, he became a governor of a planet and administered how the planet would run, like where the farms would go and all this stuff, and it was a very successful planet because again, you're dealing with this.
Guy who has hundreds of years of
Yeah.
experience, who's more intelligent, can memorize stuff easier.
Yeah, exactly. Who can like
Who can stay
ream through
awake
data?
longer,
yeah.
yeah.
Doesn't need to sleep. Doesn't need to rest. So like their
Yeah.
functions are still like they would still beat out like regular humans at a
Yeah.
lot of jobs, right?
Yeah.
Like an accountant, like just
Yeah.
calculate math super fast and like just look at books of data and just absorb that knowledge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So next question. It's not really a question. It's more of a mini topic that we got. Chapter serfs. Who are in charge of like the day-to-day running things for the Space Marine chapter? Like usually they're made up of either failed aspirants or maybe it's an honorary position to a
local population.
Like cooking food and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cooking food,
cleaning rooms.
Yeah, helping your Space Marine put on his armor.
And in some cases, they even help with the defense of, say, the Fortress Monastery.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll take on.
Who do you think crews macro cannons?
Hundreds of them.
Yeah. So like, it's a very overlooked part of a Space Marine chapter, but it is a part of the Space Marine chapter, and they are even allowed to wear Space Marine badges.
Yeah,
Really?
like their colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which
yeah.
is super rare.
Yeah.
And like such a great honor. And yeah, they're just often overlooked. So maybe they have
Their sacrifices are always overlooked, even by the Astartes that they serve.
yeah. It's a huge part of the
Yeah.
chapter that
And the
is
chapter
very-
too looks at them differently, right? Like I don't know if we lost this in the last episode,
We
but
did.
like yeah, one chapter might use them as slaves, right? They're just slave labor. Another chapter might honor them and be like, hey, like good job, little buddy.
Yeah,
That's all the honor that's required.
Keep working, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like, very different.
Yeah, some of them would like treat them awfully. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't become a Space Marine, but
Yeah, like you're
Like they would see them as failures.
yeah, you're only good for cleaning latrines.
I actually
right?
read an article about
Oh, this
that.
reminds me of my life.
Oh,
man.
sad.
So that's a question too. We'll talk about another question.
Wait.
Oh,
Before we move off chapter serfs, let's talk Space Marine food really quick,
yeah.
just for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes,
Locusts.
they are capable of eating a lot of things.
Metal.
Yeah, metal, people.
Poison.
It's described though that they often eat this like highly nutritious paste that's like almost like an oatmeal that
Makes
has like
sense.
everything that they need.
Oh, it's the same thing as what they eat on the Matrix.
yeah,
Sure.
that has everything they need in it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I brought that up, but I just
They-
thought it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Like, and
they
again,
also do have great feasts where they bring out like
chapter to chapter, you're gonna have different practices and stuff, but that
Yeah.
seems to be the standard, and it makes
Yeah.
sense. Like super nutritious, they don't need to sit down and have
Yeah,
a full
they're
meal.
not enjoying like
They're not doing it for food's sake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're doing it to get fuel.
Yeah, exactly. But there are ones that honor big feasts and traditions, like the Space Wolves and stuff. We'll do it on purpose. And moving into that is leisure.
yeah, like what does a Space Marine's day consist of?
So his
Well,
actually.
You can only
a
spend
Space
so
Marine-
many hours killing heretics.
Yeah, a Space Marine wakes up at precisely 5 o'clock standard time.
Yes.
And the first thing,
Regardless of their own
whatever
sun
time.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the middle of the night here.
every good Space Marine knows that the first thing you do is you always brush your teeth as soon as you wake up.
You listen to that, all the 10-year-olds listening to this podcast.
The next thing he does is he knows that a good breakfast is important. So he
Some would
goes-
say even the most important
the
meal
most
of the
important
day.
meal of the day. So he goes and he gets his
Highly
30
nutritious.
eggs, his 3 pigs worth of bacon. After his big breakfast, then he goes
I'm
for
just gonna cut you off here.
an easy 30K run.
No, it's got to be a 40K
And now it's
run.
only 6 o'clock in the morning.
Eric, it's a 40K run. Thank you.
I listened to this one podcast and they always do. I've mentioned it before. They do that factor fan fiction.
Yeah,
The one fan fiction was like the Space Marine applicant like trying to become a part of the Dark Angels, and he's like, I can run a 20-minute mile and like all these ridiculous things where it's like you can probably fucking walk a 20-minute mile.
So
like,
the
it was
guy
a-
who wrote that was just like 20-minute mile. That would be so.
yeah,
quick.
like he just had no, and he listed a bunch of these things that were just like so like
He had no concept of
No
what he was talking
concept.
I
about.
can deadlift 150 pounds.
and like
I'm like
there-
a god.
there's like a chapter opening in the Dark Angels, so he like tried to fill out like a chapter
Application.
yeah. And even though he was like this 30-year-old man kid on a 20-minute mile, it was just fucked. It was so good.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's what an actual Space Marine day.
So believe it or not, they did write it out. Now, again, with everything else, disclaimer, it is not applicable to all chapters at all
Or
times.
even all Marines within the same chapter.
Yeah.
or
they're-
even if you're fighting or if you're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
you're in combat mode, you're not doing
So
this.
this is what a day could look like.
Yeah,
in
and,
the life
this
of a Space
is
Marine.
actually written down. The other thing to note is that I forgot. Never mind.
Good stuff.
Oh yeah, no. So they live like a highly monastic lifestyle. Everything's very regimented and stuff.
Monastic being like monk-like.
Yeah, and that's kind of, they can be described as warrior monks.
They literally come from fortress monasteries.
Yeah. So they wake up at 4 a.m.
You
for
were close, Eric, but
So close.
morning prayer, which is interesting for a secular belief system.
Not brush your teeth, hey?
It's often led by the chaplain.
acid spit kind of.
Just choose away.
Even metal toothbrushes wouldn't do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But it's led by the company chaplains. And essentially, like, again, describing the prayers, what they're doing is they're actually, like, renewing their vows to the emperor. They'll, like, display holy relics and things out for the chapter, kind of reminder of their past, their history,
Yeah.
who we are.
Yeah.
And they also give out orders, announcements, and do other administrative tasks. Brother Thalius drooled on his pillow last night, and it ate through his pillow. He needs a new pillow.
Yeah. Perfect.
At 0500
I hope
hours.
that was written.
No.
No.
You guys know that, like, that gland isn't active all the time,
It
right?
is.
Oh. Okay.
At 0500 hours, they have their morning firing rites. So they essentially engage in target practice, right?
Yeah.
Just a range day. And they distribute awards and punishments for consistently good or poor accuracy, respectively.
Yeah.
Obviously,
What do you think those punishments are? Like lashes?
a beating. No, it doesn't specify.
Like, what would you think, though?
It's
To
probably
me,
like
it'd
more
be
like
more
an
of like dishonorable
honor-based,
things, like,
yeah,
like go
like-
clean the toilets, like like
No.
to cause punishment.
No, they would never send a space marine to clean a toilet.
No, but like to cause pain, like they're above, and they shall know no fear, they shall feel no pain.
yeah, like what are you gonna do? Beat a space marine that can insta heal, doesn't feel anything,
Right, like, it
beyond,
just seems
a
like
small caliber bullet. Like
Yeah.
Like, if anything, like, an admonishing word would be, like, enough to crush a space marine
it could be
spirit.
It could be
right?
something, more impractical,
you
or it could
don't
even be
wanna
like, hey,
crush them though.
go into seclusion and think about your failures.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
it could be
like-
anything.
I just can't picture a space marine, like, with his hand down a toilet scrubbing.
It could be. You don't know.
I just
Do you
can't
know every
picture it.
chapter, Eric?
No, I just can't.
And
picture it.
I wouldn't be above some space marines who are particularly brutal, giving out physical punishments.
Sure,
it's
yeah.
it's totally probable.
Yeah.
The other thing too is like you are dealing with transhuman like space marines, so like a space marine bad at accuracy is like still gonna be
99.8%.
yeah, exactly. He's like you didn't do 100% like the rest of your brothers,
Yeah.
So it's still significantly.
Apologies. There was a particularly good-looking serf that walked by.
You must not think about such things.
Remit yourself.
For a pee smack.
You're gonna get your pee-pee smacked.
Call the apothecary.
I'm Gary from pee smack.
Well, to make sure everything goes fine.
Yes.
In it.
So then at 7, so they're on the range for a few hours. At 7 is battle practice, mostly close quarters oriented, and is usually involves live fire, hazardous environment training, and is done. It's done. It's done at that. It's done at
I
that time.
thought it was like done what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At noon they'll have midday prayer, and any injured space marines can report to the apothecary. Again, you're
Just
dealing
live fire. And
yeah,
like,
you're dealing with like their training and their practices are serious business. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just going to go to the gym. It's like, no, you're going to work out till you're, completely destroyed.
Yeah, or you're gonna
could
fight
die,
someone
yeah.
with a bladed weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And for real, right? They're not playing around.
Yeah.
At 1300 hours, they have their midday meal. It's implied that it's local wildlife killed during morning activities.
Interesting.
When you're firing las cannons and rockets everywhere, you're bound to hit a deer.
Or just, a really big lizard.
Oh yes.
At 1315 hours is tactical indoctrination. It can take many forms. It could be anything from briefings on aliens, Xenos, technology, strategies.
They're going into a campaign. They're laying out the campaign
Yeah.
ahead of them.
Yeah, exactly. Anything to do with learning or a debrief on the morning's battle. So whatever they did that morning in terms of practice, right?
Yeah.
At 1500 hours, they're back to battle practices. Focus more on combined tactics in conjunction with vehicles, dreadnoughts, and devastator squads, and includes a trial of a new tactic introduced during the tactical indoctrination.
Interesting. Okay.
2000 hours is evening prayer. So pretty much all day you're fighting and killing and practice killing.
Only to stop to eat and
Pray. Yeah. In addition to the prayer, gene seed testing may occur at this point. So they're always, checking to make sure everything's functioning.
And
Everything's good.
scouts are still a thing, like
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
all this whole regiment too.
Yeah,
so-
exactly. So just making sure everything's functioning. You're
Yep.
you're still 100%. You know, there's no corruption or mutation. Not necessarily chaos related. It could just be biology.
Yeah, just degeneration.
Yeah, it's filthy degenerates. 2,100 hours is the evening meal. Considered a feast by normal human standards. It's provided by the chapter serfs, and some chapter masters may allow alcohol to be consumed. Interestingly enough, it's very difficult for Space Marines to get drunk. They cannot get drunk on regular alcohol.
Well, they have like that second kidney or third or fourth
yeah,
kidney.
and their
or
liver
fifth
is so
kidney or-
efficient that it just filters out alcohol.
Or
Like
is
it's
it the
alcohol
liver?
is a toxin, right? And they filter it out. However, like the Space Wolves are known to create a drink called Mjord, which is like deadly to humans, and it takes that to get a Space Marine drunk. I don't know if there's other specific kinds of alcohols out there, but it's very difficult. We're not drinking regular beers here.
No,
boys.
it's like 102% alcohol content.
yeah,
Just paint
102%.
thinner.
And you have to inhale it. They drink it up their bums. Anyways, 21.
Drink it up their bums.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
No, I know.
2130 hours is night firing exercises.
On a full stomach.
On a full, you got 30 minutes to eat.
Yeah, and then you have to
A feast,
re-armor
30 minutes to eat at a feast
with alcohol.
with alcohol. If you're drunk, you're screwed. And they do other exercises for like exotic environments, underwater fighting, things like that. Fog, smoke, zero gravity, everything else. 2315 hours is maintenance rituals. Every Space Marine is responsible for their own armor and weapons, and it's often checked by the chapter's tech Marines. There's often cases like in the Horse Heresy where you'll have Marines in their quarters like polishing their armor, and like Mark said, like they value their colors and things, right? There's a damage, there's chip on it. They go through great pains to make it look good. From 2345 hours is free time, and they are permitted time to reflect upon their duty to the Emperor. However, many chapter masters regard free time as a frivolous waste and dangerous distraction in the extreme.
Those 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Gets
so
them every time.
2345
To midnight.
to midnight is their free time. So you get 15 minutes, if that,
And then it's lights out.
and then it's lights out, and Space Marines are allocated 4 hours in which to sleep. Now, even that's excessive. Space Marines can operate on zero sleep. This is obviously like your barracks routine. You're not under the pressure of combat, so why wouldn't you rest the maximum that you require?
Right.
Yeah.
Like they can last weeks without sleep,
Yeah.
but for the purposes of this, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a day of a basic Space Marine.
Yeah. Lots of violence.
Lots of violence involved, and
Yeah.
very regimented, obviously very controlled.
Yeah.
Some chapters do. I know they kind of joke about the free time thing. Some Space Marine chapters do things in their spare time.
Yeah, like some are artists.
Yeah, some are artists. Some like engage in war games for fun, like little miniatures. It is implied that the Iron Warriors used to do that for the heresy.
That's funny.
Even the Thousand Sons, when they were loyalists, would actually there was one that would brew wine as a hobby. He had like a vineyard. So and it was a different time then.
Yeah, I'm assuming that this schedule probably changed a lot once heresy was found and they decided.
Yeah, it's
that
likely.
we
I'm not going to
shouldn't.
say it's still the rule, but a planet that might be more in
Heresy
tune.
was found.
A planet more in tune with its population might engage with more population activities, right?
Yeah.
Like normal things, and like salamanders will engage with their communities, right?
Yeah.
Or they might spend time at the forge and build things. So,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not a hard and fast rule.
No. But basically their entire day is chewed up of just
Combat training and
Prayers.
Prayers.
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll talk about one more Space Marine misconception, and then I think that's all unless you guys have other topics.
Hit me, Mark.
So the next Space Marine misconception will be the 1,000 Marine limit. Because when you go into the numbers, they got more than 1,000 Marines.
Even in a perfectly codex.
Following chapter, they
Yeah.
got more. So right off the bat, you got 10 companies, each with 100 Marines. So that's 1,000 right there.
Yeah.
Then each company has 3 leadership roles: a captain, 2 lieutenants. So now you're at an additional 30 Marines. Then you throw in
Dreadnoughts.
11 dreadnoughts, sure, if they can be considered living. So let's just, you know.
Don't tell that to a
That is
dreadnought.
the question. Like, do they count towards the 1,000 limit?
Yeah.
Right?
Like for this argument, we'll say they don't. Just
Sure.
whatever. You don't need it. We're already over that limit.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you got at least 11 chaplains. So now you're up to that next number.
120.
More than that.
No.
Oh.
30. Yeah. 130, 141 is what you're at.
Yeah.
1,041 Marines.
Yeah, and then you got apothecaries, which usually you have bare minimum 10. So now you're up to 151,
Yeah.
1,051, 1,051,
Yeah.
1,051, 1,000.
I don't. What's he stuck on a loop?
And then you got
He's having a Rain Man
librarians.
moment.
So yeah, who knows how many you got? The other thing you got is tech marines. Who knows how many you got? But let's just toss on a lowball number, another 20 marines. But here's where the numbers start to really get skewed, and it's the armory. Each vehicle is piloted by a marine.
Who is
So-
not part of the squad?
Who is not. Each squad has a vehicle attached to it who will at least have one marine pilot. I'm sure repulsors probably have two. One to actually fly, one to fire all those guns. So now you got an additional 20 guys per company.
Per squad. not
No,
per-
2 guys per squad,
You're saying
10
each.
squads,
Right.
so 20 per company.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's another 200 Marines just in transport vehicles. Then they got
Aircraft.
aircraft,
Artillery.
Yeah, like so. Usually, people will put their numbers closer to like 1,500 by the time all this is done.
Yeah.
So I think what we kind of ended on is 1,000 battle brothers.
And that's the key word.
Line Brothers, yeah.
Yeah.
line brothers.
Which is those 1,000 people actually in the company. But when you're looking at Space Marine chapters or whatever, you will notice that it's over 1,000 Marines.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that was even before the Primaris thing.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
always
with the
been a thing.
Primaris thing, the numbers just skyrocket more because now you're dealing with some chapters that still have old Marines and now have Primaris Marines.
Yeah.
And it gets very complicated.
Yeah.
It was written that every chapter should have 1,000 Marines, but again, like that's the hard and fast writings.
Yeah.
But just in practical terms, like it far exceeds that number.
Something else to understand though is it is very rare for their squads to be completely filled out.
Sure.
So even though out of those 1,000 battle line Marines, maybe there's only 800 at a time.
Sure. But
Right,
so
that depends
I-
on chapter specifically.
I know exactly what you're saying, but like heavy losses is considered 100 Marines.
Yeah, like
So,
even
like,
Yeah,
even
you're
for a
not taking
chapter-
heavy losses in every engagement.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like even if someone tries to make the argument though that like
Yeah.
oh no it's because the chapter is never really fully stocked.
Yeah.
The reality is like there's way more non-combatants than there are missing people.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're gonna hit that 1,000
Yeah.
no matter what.
And then you
you're
don't
doing.
even know how many scouts you have coming in at any given time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
like
another
and
rule.
how do you really define a scout? Like how many?
At what stage in the process are they? a
Yeah,
Marine?
are they? Do they count as like a
Yeah.
scout versus just an aspirant? And
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just an interesting thought.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I do have one more quick point on
Sure.
on Space Marine psychology before, and that's my last
'Kay.
2 cents.
and then we're gonna kill you.
Rape him, kill him, throw him in a ditch.
no,
Dead.
I don't want that.
Hashtag dead.
So, anyways, yeah, Astartes psychology. So, one thing we haven't really talked about that's kind of important. We've briefly touched on it. Is like how other people view Space Marines.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So oftentimes what's used in like the literature is that they're described as like inspiring transhuman dread, which is essentially like you see this thing that's way bigger than anything you've seen before. It moves so quickly it shouldn't like you don't realize how fast it's moving because you're like nothing that big should be able to move that fast.
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah, and it's so
logically.
powerful, right? That oftentimes people are just frozen with fear or will run away when facing an Astartes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Regardless of a skull helmet.
yeah, regardless if you're wearing a skull helmet or not. So yeah, it's often described as transhuman dread. A lot of people even if they're your allies, they're dumbfounded when they see a Space Marine in person.
Yeah.
They
And
like,
usually it takes them a second to kind of collect themselves. Like,
yeah, like they're so in awe.
Well,
of-
it's such a creature of myth and legend. Like
Yeah.
I bet some people don't even like they hear about Space Marines, they don't even believe they're real.
Yeah.
Right?
Again,
Like-
going to the numbers of the Space Marines, there are only 1 million, maybe more now. But regardless, in a galaxy of trillions,
More than that.
trillions.
Spanning an entire galaxy. Like
you're
humanity
lucky
is,
if you even see a space marine in person in your lifetime.
that's not lucky. That's blessed.
Okay.
No, really. Though,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
lucky is winning the Powerball on your planet. Blessed is hearing and seeing a space marine.
yeah. So yeah, it is very rare. Like a lot of times they've taken on a mythological role, which you can aspire to the other things of like them being described as angels of death and stuff. They take on a mythological role in the eyes of the rest of the Imperium, who never actually sees them. And when they do see them, they see these like pretty much gods of battle. Like, you know, they're just so awestruck by these destructive forces.
Yeah.
The other thing too on the psycho conditioning of space marines, kind of like way off topic, unless you have anything else on transhuman
Well,
dread.
just flip it around how Space Marines see the Imperium citizens.
Yeah, that's very broad.
Very broad
yeah.
for sure.
But you have chapters who, you know, actually that does touch on what I was going to talk about there. But you have some chapters that are integrated into the communities a lot, like Ultramarines and Salamanders, who take like a personal protective role over humans. Or like, you know, they'll give up their life to protect, you know, a common citizen, because that's their role, that's their job, that's what they see themselves as. You know, Ultramarines might see themselves as administrators and like rulers, but like what's the word?
Ultimately,
like beneficent rulers. That's not the word I was looking for, but it's benevolent rulers.
Beneficent.
Thank you. Anyways, yeah,
That's Mark's speech.
I know. I'm infected.
It's the black speech.
Yeah, but they see it their job to make the Imperium.
Sorry,
Just such a derailer. Anyways, it's their job to make the Imperium run efficiently, and like they're doing it for humanity, in service to humanity. You have Space Marines like the Marines Malevolent that don't care about humans and think they're cannon fodder and, you know, weak, and like, you know, they're the true inheritors of the Imperium.
And then you even have it one farther, Flesh Terrors, who have been known to kill citizens.
Yeah, like loyal citizens who've
Even
done
though
nothing
they're
wrong.
loyal,
yeah, they're both loyal, and they'll just slaughter you.
Yeah.
So it's a very wide variety. Depends on the chapter. Depends on their history and stuff. But one thing to note too is because Space Marines are like transcended humans, a lot of them cut all ties with their past. And again,
most of them have no connection.
No.
That's specifically severed from them.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
don't go back to the homeworld and hang out with their mom.
In a lot of cases,
They won't remember their mom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're psychologically conditioned to forget their past lives. They become someone different.
Yes.
And so they forget their parents.
I
They forget-
believe you're not even given your name, like your new name, for a while.
And I'm sure even if you went back, you would look so different than when you're a 13-year-old boy. Your family probably wouldn't even
or might be
recognize
dead
you.
because you're 200 years old. And
Well, yeah, but like...
if you came back right away.
You probably wouldn't even be recognized. So
No.
you wouldn't know them, they wouldn't know you.
Yeah.
You were literally a new person.
Yeah.
Now, some chapters, like the Salamanders, kind of break that. I believe some of them are aware of their family lineages, and some families can trace, like, oh, they abducted, you know, my uncle from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I know he's a Space Marine somewhere out there.
Yeah.
So, like, your family might be honored as, like, oh, they recruited from you.
Yeah.
But, like, you wouldn't know his name. You wouldn't know where he is.
Of course, yeah.
And you don't have that desire. You don't even have a desire to go back to your family or be like, oh, I miss my brother.
No, it doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
No, yeah. As far as you're concerned, it no longer exists. It no longer matters.
Yeah. I wonder if a Space Marine even has that concept of
Some-
where they originated
Some
from.
do, and it depends on the nature of the psycho conditioning. There's some that have memories of their childhood, and they're kind of like vague or faded, and they're like,
Yeah.
I remember somebody in my life, like I had a brother once, or, you know, if there's one Space Marine who's an Iron Warrior in particular, who goes through a trial with his twin brother who dies, and he remembers that because it's such a traumatic experience, but he doesn't remember his parents. He doesn't remember, like, they're all vague, distant memories, right, of a past life. So just interesting things to note.
Yeah. Anything else? I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we've done a decent job of covering Space Marines.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot more to them. Like,
Well, I think this was a good base. A lot of other things is going to come down to chapter specifics.
yeah, or like one episode I'm looking forward to is like talking about all the specialties, like talking about librarians, tech marines, chaplains, and apothecaries.
Right.
Like,
and not only just their role, but how do they do their training? What does
Yeah.
it consist of?
exactly. Like,
What
there's
are
a
their
lot of cool
specific
details
abilities and-
inside that alone.
Yeah, for sure.
How do their weapons work?
That's another cool detail that,
Yeah.
you know, there's
Oh,
We've never
all
even
that
how does the
stuff.
touched on the
pistol-
bolt gun.
But now
Yeah.
listening to that last episode we did and this one, like anytime we mention Astartes, you definitely will understand.
What we're talking about.
Yeah, now
about.
now you have a sense of the perspective
Yeah.
of where they fit and what they do.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for listening to our 21st episodes. 21st episode. I think we're sitting around 8,700 downloads now.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it's getting
We're
pretty.
definitely noticing the numbers grow each week.
Yeah, which is all thanks to you guys, obviously spreading that word of mouth. you know?
One cool thing that happened was when we seen that rating that we got, on just a random website that we had nothing to do with, It's not like it was rated on iTunes, and obviously it's oh yeah, okay, that's still cool.
Yeah. Please rate us on iTunes.
Yeah, but it's cool to see. So we definitely are growing.
We appreciate that anytime you guys do it. So.
Tell your gaming group about us if you
Have one.
have one.
If you have friends.
Send us a message.
Yeah, obviously we really like to chat and hang out with you guys. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening. I guess we'll see you on our next episode.
Yes.
Bye.
Peace out.